Hello everyone, welcome to What If Deku Was Trained by the Gods of the Record of Ragnarok movie. Before we start, please go support ancalagonintheblack for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some wrong he or she calling here because it's translated, so let me clear this. Deku is a male in this story. App 1. People in the world say that for a long time without any reason they began to develop something called quirks, powers that people began to have, each one of them. Despite all that being that some others did not get to have a quirks, being normal people and being considered quirkless. But despite everything they had no reason or the true idea of why they have those powers, since the truth was that they had those powers thanks to certain deities who gave them to know what they were going to do with that same thing. Now in a hospital was Izuku with his sister Isumi and his mother Inko. Izumi. I can't wait any longer, I just want to know about my quirk, what it is and what it is like. Izuku. That's right, we're very excited. Izumi. When we get older we'll have to think of good names for our team of brothers. Izuku. That's right, we should do that very thing. He said this while keeping a smile on his face just like his sister, since the two of them were really close. Inko. Calm down, you have to stay calm, just try to calm down. She said this while managing to keep a smile on her face in front of her children until the doctor came in. Doctor? So you are the Midoriya family, it's nice to meet you. Izumi. What's my quirk? Izuku. Is it a strong one? Izumi. How powerful is it? These were questions that were thrown at the doctor, who could barely sit down and could barely hear some of the questions that the children, who were so happy, were asking. Inko. Calm down, let the doctor speak, you have to listen to him so you can know about his quirks. Doctor. Nothing is wrong, it is normal for children to do this kind of thing, it usually happens to everyone very often. Izumi. So what's my quirk? Doctor. Well, you're Izumi Midoriya. It seems that your quirk allows you to breathe fire, which is pretty good. Izumi. That's great, I can't wait to tell everyone about this, I'm so happy. Izuku. Then mine must be just as cool. Doctor. Well, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. It seems that you don't have a quirk. You're quirkless. I'm very sorry. Inko. But that's impossible, his father and I have quirks. But that the doctor went on to tell them about the quirkless, making them understand this very thing. Doctor. I'm very sorry about that, but nothing can be done about it. Inko. Well, thanks for saying that, we should just go home. He said this to go home with the children, taking Izumi and Izuku's papers with him. On the way Izuku was feeling bad, and despite Izumi trying to cheer him up, the boy simply couldn't do anything about it. When they got home, Izumi could only go to her room, leaving Izuku and Inko alone in the living room. Izuku. Mom, can I be a hero without a quirk? At such a question, he began to hear Inko's laughter, making him look at his mother who was dying of laughter. Inko. That was a good joke, Izuku, it's impossible that you can be that with a quirk, that's impossible, you simply can't. At such a thing Izuku was only feeling how his heart was breaking inside until they heard the door open once again, Toshinori, Izuku's father, who was entering the place. Toshinori. So how did it go? Inko. Izumi has a quirk that lets him breathe fire, but your son has nothing, he's just quirkless. At such a thing the child could only see his father's lost look as if something very bad had happened. Izuku. I don't understand what's wrong with that. Toshinori. Well, the bad thing is that I'm number one, but if people find out that my son is quirkless, everyone will laugh at me mercilessly. I'll be an embarrassment. By saying such a thing he was just holding his head while imagining the mockery towards him for having a quirkless son. Izuku. But I don't think it's that bad. At one point he ended up receiving a slap from his mother, causing him to fall to the floor and hold his face. Inko. Shut your mouth, you are a disgrace, in this family we are all powerful, no one should be weak, and with your presence alone, you bring shame to us all, to your father, to your sister and to me. Faced with such a thing, the boy could only run away from the place, ending up inside his room, all seen by his sister who was worried about her older brother, since between the two Izumi was the best by a few days difference. The day passed to the next, being that when Izuku got up, he went to the living room being sad about what his mother told him yesterday. Izuku. Yumi Levante. He said it in a low tone that the two women in the house could hear, and they turned to look at him, Izumi with a smile and Inko with a look of total disgust. Inko. Well, I don't care, we have to go to school soon, try to eat some scum for breakfast. Saying that he could only sit down to have breakfast while Izuku sadly went to the kitchen, the hours passed and Izuku found himself at school, hoping to be in better spirits, even though his best friend Katsuki Bakugo was there. The ash-haired guy himself was the one who approached him. Bakugo. Hey Izuku, now you can tell me about your quirk, my mom told me yesterday that they went to see what your quirk was. Izuku. Yeah, about that, Izumi got a quirk that lets her throw fire out of her mouth. At such a thing he could only feel a small tap on the shoulder from his friend who showed him a friendly smile. Bakugo. I'm not talking about your sister, I'm talking about you, you know you're my friend, you can tell me anything you want. Faced with such a thing, Izuku only began to fill himself with confidence to have a smile in the eyes of his best friend, to be able to tell him the truth. Izuku. Well, it turns out that I'm quirkless, but that doesn't matter to me, since I plan to be a hero as great as All Might anyway, you know that way we can be the best. That was heard by everyone, making them start laughing except for Izumi, while Bakugo just looked at him, and Izuku, because of the laughter, only began to feel bad. Bakugo. You are useless, a Deku, which means useless. Quirkless people can't be heroes, and even less be as great as All Might, you want things that are impossible to have. He said it with a clear mocking tone towards Izuku, who, at such a thing, could only feel worse and leave the classroom crying in front of everyone's eyes as Izumi began to follow him, and the teacher did not care. Izumi kept running until she could find her brother on one side of the patio to approach him, who was crying alone. Izuku. Now you come to do something bad to me, right? Izumi. No, remember that we are brothers, you know very well that I will always help and support you in whatever. Izuku. But I'm a quirkless trash in society. Izumi. I don't care about that, we already said a long time ago that we were going to be together, and it's something we're going to do all the time. He said it while hugging his older brother. The days passed in which Izuku was receiving abuse both at school and at home. One of the worst things was finding out that his number one All Might was actually his father, who treated him badly all that time. It was always the same, so that he only got worse every day, and his sister Izumi was the only thing that kept him standing and prevented suicide. Although at one point everything ended when he was at home watching TV. Inko. Hey quirkless, come here for a moment, your father has to take you to a special place. At such a thing, Izuku carefully approached All Might, who managed to keep a smile on his face. All Might. Don't try to be scared, it'll be fun. He said this as he took Izuku to leave without being seen by anyone, starting to jump while he was always above the houses until he reached the depths of the forest, entering it walking until they reached a kind of waterfall. Izuku. What are we doing in this place? All Might. It's easy to see if trash can't swim. He said this as he grabbed Izuku by the clothes to lift him above the waterfall, causing him to start moving because of the fear he felt. Izuku. But you know I can't swim. All Might. Well, trash can be eliminated from this world, let's just say that you committed suicide, that's all. Izuku. But they're going to look for my body. All Might. Not if I handle everything. He said this as he dropped the boy. Izuku. No, Dad. But that he ended up in the water, disappearing with the current before the eyes of All Might, who had a smile. All Might. Well, now I must say that he escaped and possibly committed suicide, nothing more. He said it to leave without realizing that something was approaching. Izuku only began to close his eyes, watching through the water, as All Might left only for another much larger figure to begin to stand where the blonde was before. With that he closed his eyes. After a while he began to open them, feeling a little cold, but at the same time a little hot. He ended up opening his eyes, seeing that it was nighttime in the place, although due to the trees he was still in the forest. Izuku. What happened? I remember that I threw myself down the waterfall and nothing else. Man. Don't worry, I'll get you out. Hearing the voice alone, he turned around to see a red-haired man. He had a huge hammer, he had long black gloves, white cloths with iron boots, a body belt, and his eyes were black with yellow pupils. Izuku. Who are you? Why did you save me? Where am I? Man. Everything in its time, but at least you should know my name is Thor. That man said it with a cold, emotionless voice. Hap 2. Izuku looked at that man in front of him, even though there was only a campfire that separated them, apart from a kind of servant that was being cooked, which that man was now eating. He was only looking at this, as if that person called Thor was as if nothing had happened in front of this same green-haired boy who only happened to sit down, the little boy of only 4 years old. Thor. You better start eating a little, it will make you better. He said this as he passed him some meat that was stuck on a stick. Izuku just took it while looking at the red-haired man. Izuku. Your name is Thor, like that Norse god. Thor. That's because I am the same Thor that you see in front of you. I am known as Thor, the berserker of thunder, the strongest Norseman. Izuku. But that's impossible, you're supposed to be just a myth. Thor. Some myths can come true, little one. For example, I am someone who is known for massacring an army of ice giants who all died with a single blow each. Izuku. If it were that way, I don't understand why he saved me, although I think he doesn't know that I am quirkless. As he said that, he realized his words were expecting rejection, but he heard nothing. Izuku. It seems like he didn't hear me. Thor. In fact, I know you're quirkless, but I don't care if you have a quirk or not. Izuku. Then there's no point in you saving my life. Thor. If you do, you see, I must explain something to you about a tournament called Ragnarok, known for being a fight between gods against humans. But that he began to explain about that tournament apart from his life, how he could never feel the excitement of true fun in combat until he met Lu Bu, who fought him until the end, being a worthy rival. Obviously, with all this, the little green-haired boy was surprised and fascinated by such things that the deity was telling him. Izuku. That's really impressive, he really is the strongest of all. Thor. Yes, but that doesn't matter, in fact I only came for a special topic that includes the other gods who participated in the tournament. Izuku. I don't think it's anything special, I'm just a simple mortal that you saved. Thor. You are more special than you think, Izuku Midoriya. A long time ago the gods reached an agreement in which all of us who participated in Ragnarok were going to pass our powers and abilities on to someone, and obviously we did it for certain purposes. Izuku. I don't understand what could be so important. Thor. Well, I do it out of simple boredom. I haven't had fun in a long time, and I've never had fun before, except with Lu Bu. That's why I'm so bored of my existence that I simply want to disappear. Izuku. And you think giving your abilities and powers to a mortal is good? Thor. Yes, normally if a mortal receives the power of a deity, at least a little bit of divinity dies immediately, no matter who the person is. Izuku. Then it doesn't make sense, it's impossible for me to be someone who can receive it. Thor. That's why we prepared something special, it is to create a mortal who can withstand divinity. You are not going to be a god, but not just any mortal either, you are going to be a demigod, someone who can be hurt by human weapons, mortals and divine things. Izuku. You're actually offering me this power. Thor. Yes, we understood that humans are not going to achieve good on their own, that is why we need someone to guide them, a deity and at the same time mortal. Izuku. That's why you want to give me your powers. Thor. Yes, I'm going to train you for a while, and when I'm done training you, someone else will follow to do it. Izuku. I see, then I really will be stronger than before. Thor. Another thing, you're going to have to start preparing yourself because for a long time you won't be able to be with your ex-family, you're not going to be Midoriya anymore, that means you'll never be able to be with your sister until you finish your training. Izuku. Okay, if it's about this that's very important then I accept. Saying that, he ended with a slight yawn in front of Thor's eyes, who already knew well what was coming next. Thor. You better get some sleep, you need to rest so you can feel better. But that Izuku could only lie down to start sleeping. The next day Izuku began to wake up, opening his eyes noticing the sun's rays. Izuku. It's already daylight. The young man got up to walk, noticing that he was inside a cave. When he was able to get out, he saw a large island where he was. Thor. Looks like you're awake. Izuku. Thor-sensei, where are we? Thor. We gods prepared this place so you can train, no one will be able to do anything in this place so we can do whatever we want. Izuku. Then we'll start training now. Thor. Yeah, first things first. Then that he saw how he left the hammer on the floor in front of him. Thor. We'll start with running, some stuff like squats, push-ups, sit-ups, some possible weightlifting, and at the end of it all you're going to try to lift my hammer. Izuku. Then I'm ready to begin. Thor. That's good to know, now try to start running. But that they only began with the training, since then everything was going to begin for the next most powerful person in the world, in Japan, in a school Izumi was entering, which was wrong only for Bakugo to approach with his group of friends towards the green-haired girl with his arrogant smile. Bakugo. Hey, where's Deku? I have to teach him some new things with my quirk, just like my friends want to do the same. But that some started to laugh while Izumi looked upset and hit Bakugo in the face, causing him to fall to the floor, surprising everyone since Izumi was supposedly the calmest girl of all. Bakugo. Why did you do it? Izumi. That's because of what you did, because of you and my parents, now my brother is missing, he's not in my house but is missing, it's even said that he's dead and all because of you and your stupid ego of believing yourself to be number one, just because you activated your quirk before the rest. Those words began to echo in the blonde's mind, who only had in mind killing my friend, while remembering some happy moments he had with that green-haired man who was once his friend and was now dead, so it was going to be impossible for him to ask for that forgiveness. Bakugo. I'm sorry. Izumi. Don't say those words to me, find my brother and tell him that. He said this as he walked from the place to his class, while Bakugo only remained on the floor with the mentality that killed his best friend. The whole year passed in which Izuku was training during that time with Thor, who only forced him to train day and night, apart from trying to lift Thor's hammer, something that was impossible or was going to be until the year passed. Izuku found himself in front of Thor's hammer as the deity looked at him. Thor. Well, try it one more time. Izuku walked seriously towards the huge hammer, taking it with both hands. He began to exert force in order to lift it, trying as hard as he could with that enormous weapon. The veins in his body became more and more noticeable on his arms, while he clenched his teeth, and at one point, he ended up making his right eye change to black with a golden pupil. But that he began to move the hammer until he lifted it completely. Izuku. I did it now, I was finally able to lift Thor-sensei's hammer. He said it with clear happiness before Thor's gaze, who gave a slight smile as he approached. Thor. Well, now that you did it, I just have to start teaching you how to use it. He said this as he took the hammer to walk a little away from Izuku, who was looking at him. Thor. Now I will show you my attack, Thor's hammer. Saying that, he leaned back, looking like he was going to fall because of the huge hammer, almost touching the floor. At one point, he got up to hit the hammer against a huge rock, causing a pillar of electricity to rise, surprising Izuku with such a thing, although he almost flew away due to the power of the attack. Izuku. Impressive, Thor-sensei is really powerful. Thor. Another thing, Izuku, I don't use the gloves because I like them, but rather to contain myself, since the gloves don't prevent me from being protected from the hammer, but rather they protect the hammer from me. Voice. Now that you could lift me up, we can get to know each other. Izuku. Who spoke? Voice. I am the hammer, I am known as Mjolnir, Thor's weapon. Izuku. So you can talk. Thor. Mjolnir is my weapon, which has a life of its own, that is why it speaks. When it awakens, it will be when you meet Lupu, who will battle you. When that happens, you will be able to unleash all your power with Mjolnir. Izuku. In other words, for the moment I have to hold back or something like that. Thor. If you want to put it that way, yes, but only when you take out Mjolnir will you be able to use my power, and it will be noticeable when your right eye changes, but if you use the abilities of the other gods, then you will use the strength of others. But that Izuku just stared at him. Izuku. I really didn't expect this. Thor. Now that you know, all that's left is to wait for you to finish your training. Izuku. Good, and I hope we get along, Mjolnir, and are good partners. Mjolnir. I'm fine with it, just try to use me on enemies that are worthy of fighting or showing people that no one should ever mess with you. Izuku. Sounds good to me, thanks for telling me that. Mjolnir. And if you want I can start telling you certain things about Thor, after all I know him better than anyone. Thor. If you dare, or I'll destroy you right now. Mjolnir. Don't worry, they're just a few small details, nothing to be ashamed of. Thor. Just don't be too smart. Izuku. I think we'll get along really well anyway. He said this while having a smile on his face, causing Thor to have a slight smile in the same way. Chapter 3. A year passed since Izuku was able to lift Mjolnir, having that hammer as his battle partner from now on. The young green-haired boy could only prepare for anything, since now he was waking up in another morning, opening his eyes and being calm where he was. Izuku. Here's another good dream I have, I guess we should continue with the training, right? Mjolnir. As far as I know, you were ready since yesterday, we just have to continue with this, although I don't think so. At one point he began to hear laughter coming from outside the cave, which was not Thor's, although he had never heard him laugh. Izuku. Whose laughter is that? Mjolnir. I've never heard Thor laugh, but I don't think it's him, let's go. But that Izuku took Mjolnir just to walk towards the entrance of the cave, where when he arrived, he barely finished leaving only saw an old man who had white cloths apart from being almost bald and a big beard, as well as his eyebrows were long and white. That old man only had a women's magazine in his hand that he was looking at. Old man. I really have to visit some of these beauties, I really want to see them, maybe it would be good for me right now. Izuku. Excuse me, but who are you? Old man. Hello young man, I suppose you are Izuku Midoriya, that boy who could train Thor. By the way, he is gone, he finished training you, he no longer exists. Izuku. Without saying goodbye before, well, it's something typical of him, but anyway I suppose you're just another deity. Mjolnir. If you want some advice, don't try to challenge this old man, he's from the Greek pantheon, Zeus the father of the cosmos, someone very dangerous like Thor. Izuku. So it's Zeus. It was what he said in a low voice, something that the old man could hear. Zeus. Wow, you and Mjolnir have a telepathic connection so you can talk, that's what Thor had with that huge hammer. Izuku. Then Zeus, father of Cosmo, I would like to know if you are really a participant in the tournament. Zeus. Yes, I was, I had to fight against Adam, the father of humanity. Wow, that blonde gave me a lot of problems and beat me to death apart from humiliating me, someone impressive without a doubt. Izuku. You really are a tournament participant, I just need to know how strong you are. Zeus. So you want to know how strong I am, maybe this old man can teach you a thing or two before I train you, although I was planning on doing it anyway, let's go now. He said this as he stood up and began to walk with Izuku towards the mountain, where they reached the abyss where nothing was found. Izuku. And you plan to train me in this place, in one way or another that will be quite useful. Zeus. Yes, to start we will not use that hammer. By saying that Izuku could only let go of it so that it ended up becoming a kind of shadow which entered Izuku's body forming a tattoo of a hammer on his right arm. Zeus. Wow, that's new, I guess it can be very useful apart from using it, sometimes with some cute girls, it will be the best. He said this as he began to think unholy thoughts about the girls he saw in the magazine, losing himself in his thoughts. Izuku. Hey old man, don't get distracted and remember why you brought me. Zeus. It's true, as you can see in this form I can't fight anyone, but if I change I am something else. He said this as his body began to change, with his legs being the main ones, taking on greater musculature, growing in such a way that his chest followed his arms, being much larger than before. Izuku. So this is your way of fighting. Zeus. It is my muscular form, with this form I am capable of making very powerful attacks that are capable of killing anyone without problems, even stopping time for seconds to deliver a single hit. Izuku. If you say that then you really are someone dangerous that I must be careful of. Zeus. Not much, since you will soon learn to use this form. Thanks to Thor, your body has the ability to use this form, although we will have to train you in something else very important, and that is my diamond form. Izuku. Tu forma diamante. Zeus. Yes, it is my most powerful form with which I can face anyone without problems. And that he saw how he took hold of his muscles and began to squeeze them before Izuku's eyes until at one point it almost seemed like they were going to explode from how he crushed them. They ended up changing completely, becoming thinner, although for a moment it was shocking to see him go into that form. Izuku. Now you're a little scary, you really are. Zeus. In this form my skills increase greatly, but above all my resistance, you should use it as a last resort, since if you use it, well you will last 12 to 13 minutes, but while injured you will last 5 to 6 minutes. He said it to get me back to normal. Izuku. In other words, you have a time limit, but what happens if I use it longer than the time limit? Zeus. You can't, if you do it your muscles will explode when you reach the end, and you will just fall to the ground with big injuries for a long time. Izuku. Wow, that kind of thing is impressive, I just want to know what I should do now. Zeus. Cry out boy, you must know something very important if you try to just continue with this, you must understand something very important, those humans like Lubu or Adam who died are going to revive, and when they do you will face them. Izuku. That's why Thor told me that Mjolnir was going to awaken when I meet Lubu. Zeus. Indeed, and they are very powerful rivals, for example, Lubu is capable of dividing the sky in two with his pure strength when Adam gives him the divine ability of the eyes of the Lord, which allows him to copy and improve any ability that we try to use against him. Izuku. In other words, I'm in trouble with them and there are still more to come. Zeus. I'm afraid so, but in the meantime, let's just continue with this. You must learn everything you need to know to be like me. Literally, when you appeared, I remembered Thor when I was younger. You're just like him, but now you're going to be like me. Izuku. I think I better start just learning your skills and being equal in the sense of fighting and not being a pervert. Zeus. I'm not a pervert. Izuku. And what about those magazines from a while ago? Zeus. Those are details. He said this while crossing his arms, and Izuku was just laughing at the old man. Mjolnir. This is really going to be a problem from now on. That was what the huge hammer said while in another place where Izumi was, she was just walking calmly, although calm one could say or so she wants to believe, since she was being chased and harassed by a certain ash-haired boy. Bakugo. Come on, I apologized for throwing away your food, it was just an accident. Izumi. I don't care, you know very well that I'm not interested in anything about you since I was 4 years old, just leave me alone. Bakugo. I'm just asking you for one date, just one, and you'll see that you can trust me again, we can be together, just accept one date, nothing more. Izumi. I said I don't want it, and I don't know how many times I have to tell you the same answer until it gets stuck in your head and you leave me alone. Bakugo. Well, you're going to need more than that because I'm not going to give up like that. Izumi. I wish I was dead now. Before they could continue bothering, they began to hear a female voice. Girl. Hey, leave her alone, she doesn't want anything to do with you. Bakugo. Shut your mouth, this is none of your business. Girl. Well, I don't like to see someone bother another person just because they like them and want to force them to go out with him or her. Bakugo. If you don't want trouble, you'd better. Before he could continue speaking, the girl blew some kind of smoke out of her mouth that entered the boy's nose, causing him to remain completely still and fall asleep. Girl. That will at least leave you alone for a while, it's better that you fall asleep instead of doing something else, even if I have forced my quirk too much. Izumi. Thank you so much for that, you don't know how much I appreciate it. Girl. It's not for nothing that my name is Kami, it's a pleasure. Izumi. I'm Izumi, nice to meet you. Kami. Hey, this guy, does he bother you too much? Izumi. Yes, he only thinks about going out with me sometimes and I don't want to have anything with him. Kami. I see, you were going to see someone around here, right? Izumi. Not really, I'm just trying to lose it. Kami. Well, if you're interested, I was going to meet a friend. If you want, you can come with us. Izumi. Are you sure? It would be a bother. Kami. It's okay, you can come, just be polite or don't treat her like someone fragile. But that they walked to a cafeteria where upon arriving they saw a brunette in the place who smiled upon seeing the girl. Girl. Hi Kami, it seems like you took a while. Kami. I'm sorry, I helped her out of a problem with a boy who was bothering her. Izumi. Hello, my name is Izuku Midoriya, nice to meet you. Girl. I'm Omoyoi Rozu, it's a pleasure too, it seems Kami wanted to make you come anyway. Izumi. Yes, a little. Kami. Take a seat now and let's get to know each other. He said this while still managing to keep a smile. Back on the island Izuku was in the cave looking at a picture of Izumi and him hugging each other. Zeus. So who is she? Izuku. It's just my sister Izumi, Thor did me the favor of looking for a photo I had at home that was me with her, you know, to remember her. Zeus. Sometimes getting away from the people we love to make ourselves stronger can be the best choice, kid. Izuku. And now you give life advice. He said this as they looked at the photo. Zeus. If you want, I can bring you some of her clothes. At such a thing, a cloud of dust appeared outside the cave as Zeus ran away and Izuku was chasing him with Mjolnir in hand. Izuku. Come here you decrepit old man, I'll teach you some manners. Zeus. It was just a joke. Mjolnir. A long training. He said this as he was launched against Zeus in order to end the life of the old man who was trying to escape from that green-haired man in order to save himself and his magazines, no, because he carried them with him on the island. App 4. 2 years passed since Izuku was trained by Zeus, who was only trying to survive from that boy who only came close to killing him sometimes. It was another morning on the island where Izuku was sleeping peacefully holding Mjolnir in hand in case Zeus came closer or tried to leave the island. The boy was resting peacefully until he began to hear some whistling, causing him to wake up little by little. Izuku. Now who's whistling? Mjolnir. Unless it's Zeus planning something then it can't be anything else. At such a word from Mjolnir, Izuku immediately stood up to leave the cave with a huge hammer ready to attack. Izuku. Where the hell are you old man and what are you planning now? Those were his words as he had Mjolnir ready to throw it, although the hammer noticed something else. Mjolnir. I don't think it's Zeus, look at the sea. Hearing that, the boy looked at the sea which was moving, creating a giant hole from which a path was forming as the waters opened. Izuku. The whistling sound is coming from that place. Mjolnir. I think I know who it is, we must go right now, he doesn't like to wait or go for someone. Izuku. It looks like another deity. But that he began to run just to get to the beach where he found himself with open water, almost as if he were making way for something. Izuku. What's causing this? Mjolnir. No matter what happens, don't try to do anything that will make him angry, he can't stand mortals or other gods, better try to measure your words and keep your distance, another piece of advice, pay attention to whatever. Izuku. But who is it? He said this while raising Mjolnir in a battle stance. Mjolnir. He is a tyrant of the seas, a killer of gods, someone who sees himself as perfection itself, the one who has never lost, Poseidon. But that said, on the beach began to appear a blonde with eyes as blue as the sea, his tight blue shirt although it was wide in the middle, green gloves like seaweed leaving his fingers exposed, he had a blue trident, green shoes, a white cloth from the waist with yellow lines, along with a cold look without feelings. That man was coming out of the sea staring at Izuku who was only in a battle pose. Poseidon. HMP at least you don't trust me now, that's good to see when you meet someone and get ready to attack. Izuku. You are Poseidon the tyrant of the seas. Poseidon. Indeed I am the same, it's a pleasure or so I suppose garbage. Izuku. You're supposed to know my name and it's Izuku Olympus. Poseidon. You know what? I don't care, to me they're all the same, just garbage. Izuku. Just tell me if you're a Ragnarok fighter. Poseidon. I am the third fighter of the gods, that should seem enough. Izuku. I guess so. He said it lowering his guard a little, with that only Poseidon in the blink of an eye was in front of him holding the trident around the green-haired young man's neck, making him look at him. Izuku. He's fast, he's really fast, I didn't even see him. Poseidon. Never let your guard down, it could cause you to lose in battle. He said this as he pulled his trident out of Izuku's neck and started walking. Poseidon. Come, we must improve many things for you. But that Izuku could only begin to follow him, being attentive to any movement of the man. Izuku. So Poseidon, every deity that comes to train me is supposed to do so for a good reason. Thor got tired of his existence, Zeus did it because he wanted to, and all that's left is to know yours. Poseidon. I'm not going to beat around the bush, brat, I lost a fight at Ragnarok. Saying such a thing, Izuku began to relate the title of the deity with what he just said. Izuku. I don't understand, you are the god who knows no defeat. Poseidon. That's because I was overconfident, my fight was against Sasaki Kajiro, the biggest loser of defeat, I underestimated his ability, and he killed me. Izuku. So you could be defeated. Poseidon. That's because I couldn't predict it in time, he defeated me, and since I'm dead in a certain way I can't do anything about it, that's why I accepted this, so that the next person who gives him my abilities can defeat that trash, that bastard must die. Izuku. How ironic, the one who does not know defeat against the one who does not know victory, it turned out the other way around, I can bet that nobody expected that. Poseidon. Don't try to play with me boy or my patience or my trident will stain this place with blood. Mjolnir. Better not provoke him, you must keep things calm with him, otherwise he will kill you. Izuku. I see, he doesn't care about anything, that's why he's standing in front of me now threatening me, if he threatens someone he does it because he will do it. Poseidon. My trident is a very dangerous weapon, I can control the water at will, but if I have my trident in my hand, the control is much greater than normal, that is why I suggest you be careful brat, and if you try a reckless move, I will simply cut your head off, and I do not care if you have Mjolnir or the abilities of Zeus. Izuku. Then I shouldn't do anything to bother you, I think it's understood now. But that they continued walking. Poseidon. By the way, that hammer was too heavy for me, let's try to give you something else like my trident, you must train my skills which are sea control, enormous speed among other things that can help you in battle, but only if you learn well I will teach you everything, because if you try to do something wrong I will kill you. Izuku. We better leave the threats aside because you're starting to get on my nerves with all this murder stuff and other stuff you keep saying. Poseidon. I don't care. Izuku. I imagined that answer, I don't know why, but I did it anyway. She said this as she was walking with a man through the forest. At the Midoriya house everyone was celebrating or at least in part, since it was Izumi with her friends apart from the girl's parents, what they were celebrating was Izumi's birthday, who was only happy to now be able to be with her friends. Amy. I know it's not much, but I brought you a necklace with some pictures of us. Izumi. Thank you so much Kami for this. Momo. I could only buy you a few things, it's not much. He said this while pointing to a box that was somewhat large. Izumi. Thanks for that Momo, but I don't think there's any need to put expensive things into all this. Momo. Anyway, the best for my friend. Jiru. I only brought some music that I could get my hands on other than an electric bass. He said this while showing the electronic device to the green-haired girl who got a little nervous. Izumi. Thank you very much Jiru, there was no need to bring gifts. Amy. You're our friend, we have to do that even if you say no. Ashinori. Well luckily we were able to bring some things so you can train, daughter. Inko. Everything so that you can be a great heroine in the future, the best of all. Izumi. But mom, dad, I don't know where I can leave all this. Inko. Don't worry, we thought about that and we have a free room, remember that someone who has only been collecting trash for years. At such a thing, Izumi only seemed somewhat annoyed at the looks of her friends who noticed this. Izumi. Thanks mom, but I don't want to do that anyway, that room has to stay just as it should be. Inko. But you know very well that it only collects dust, dirt and does not belong to anyone. Ashinori. We're planning to throw all that stuff in the trash anyway. Izumi. I said no. That's what she said, upset by the looks of her parents. Ashinori. That's no way to talk to your parents. Izumi. Well, I don't care, he loved them more than they think, even when they treated him badly he still loved them, maybe they were the best parents in the world with me, but with him they were really living garbage. That was what she said as she walked into a room that she had marked the door as not to enter, followed by closing it. Those words hit the green-haired girl's parents hard and they just kept thinking about that. Momo. I think we'll go see it. Jiru. Yeah, maybe we can cheer her up a little. She said this as the three girls walked to the room thinking it was Izumi's, when they entered they saw how everything was All Might's things for a little boy, while on the floor, Izumi was sitting with her back leaning against the wall looking at a photo she had in her hand. Jiru. You seem to be feeling very unwell. Izumi. It's not that, it's just a bad memory. The girls approached to see a photo of a green-haired boy who had certain things the same as Izumi. Amy. Who is he? Izumi. He's my older brother Izuku, he and I were very close, but when we went to see our quirks, it turned out that he was quirkless. Since then my parents and Bakugo treated him badly, very badly, even physically abusing him with blows. Momo. And what happened to him? Izumi. One day he disappeared completely, there was no trace of him, it is said that he is dead. His dream was to be a great hero like All Might, he did not care about being quirkless, anyway he wanted to help people like he did, giving his life for others. Amy. And that's why you hate Bakugo and don't get along with him. Izumi. Well, now you know. Jiru. Yes, and we are here for whatever you need, you just have to say it. She said this while having a smile on her friends' faces. On the island Izuku was going from one side to the other, trying to increase his speed in order to give a precise blow to. Tap 5. 2 years passed in which Izuku was able to learn about Poseidon's abilities, learning to control the seas and knowing how to use his enormous speed in battle. Apart from the handling of his trident, being a master in this combat art, the young man had great progress. Now the boy was only walking without problems through a meadow on the island, looking at that quiet place. Izuku. Wow, this place is calming, I can even feel that it is better than the cave. Mjolnir. Well, if you build a house that is much better than that cave, which has everything you need, then it is much better. Izuku. Maybe I should do it, I mean I've been in the same cave for 6 years. Mjolnir. I don't understand what's wrong with the cave anyway. Izuku. It seems we have 2 different opinions, I would like the trident to at least have a life of its own, so I can decide once and for all. He said this as he looked at his left arm near his wrist, where there was a drawing of a trident on it. Mjolnir. Don't believe it because having 2 living weapons is really annoying. Izuku. Wow, it sounds like my weapon is jealous because I have another one to use. Mjolnir. Not at all, and if you try to say that again I'm leaving this place and going to wherever Thor is. Izuku. Relax, at least we won't have to fight much with this kind of things. I mean, it's just a simple weapon. Mjolnir. I'm feeling better anyway since Poseidon left and he keeps asking if I said anything rude about him. Izuku. So instead of communicating only mentally we should do it in a more open way, that way we can avoid more problems. Mjolnir. Not at all, you know very well that we can only talk like that when I'm in my awakened mode. Izuku. You really do cause a lot of trouble sometimes, let's just try to see how we can make a house in this place. At one point he began to hear footsteps causing Izuku to look at the forest. Izuku. Did you hear that? Mjolnir. Well, thinking that I'm just a huge hammer that doesn't have ears and that I wasn't trained by Poseidon to have enhanced senses like hearing, then no. Izuku. Someone is approaching from the forest. At one point, a large figure approached from the darkness of the forest. When he came out, he had red hair and blue eyes. He had a brown leather belt with a golden circle on it, a lion's mane that was long, and he had sandals like the belt, brown leather straps, and a red tattoo on his chest. Izuku. It's another deity by the looks of it. Mjolnir. You can rest assured, he is the god of justice, Hercules, the mortal who ascended to divinity to protect humanity. Izuku. So he's a demigod like me. Mjolnir. You are not wrong, he had to drink something called ambrosia that helped him become a god and also proved himself worthy of it, since if another person drank it they would die. The man walked until he was in front of Izuku with a smile on his face. Hercules. So Izuku, you're fine, it's nice to meet you. Izuku. If I understand correctly from Zeus's words, you were killed by a human, Jack the Ripper, if I remember his name correctly. Hercules. Yes, it was indeed me who let myself die for him, although I did it to show him what love is, the love I have for humanity, which I will always protect, no matter what happens. Izuku. I see, you must truly love all of humanity, even the cruelest murderer of all, being darkness itself in person, to let yourself be killed like that. Hercules. Yes, I think you can understand that because part of all this was towards a person who understands what it is to be a true hero, that is another quality that we could choose, so that you can be with us. Izuku. If I see, then your reasons for choosing me and coming to this place must be very good. Hercules. Yes I do, to start is that I want to continue protecting humanity, leading it down a path of good, something with which they can feel better so that everyone is safe, that is why being dead I couldn't do much, but if I left this legacy to someone else who is worthy of carrying it, then in that way I would be able to rest in peace. Izuku. It's an interesting conclusion, certainly interesting. I imagine you're capable of getting close to the trash if necessary. At one point, the red-haired boy swore he saw Poseidon himself in front of him with that emotionless look and believing that everyone else is garbage, even though some of them are. With this, the red-haired boy kept a smile as he walked over to hug Izuku with one arm and start walking alongside him. Hercules. Come on, you need to stop being like that, you resemble Poseidon in a certain way and that's not good, we need to fix certain things so you can be yourself. Izuku. Have I been looking like Poseidon lately? Mjolnir. Well, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but you were just a little bit like that sometimes, or even many times when you were dreaming, you used to say words like that. Izuku. And why didn't you tell me anything? We would have had fewer problems about it, and now I know why. Since Poseidon left we had more fights than before. Mjolnir. Well, I wanted to have someone to argue with at least a little, and that way let you be just as he was, that way you would vent a little, that's good I suppose. Izuku. I swear that at any moment I will simply kill you, and I do not care what happens, I swear that I will kill you if you do that to me again. Mjolnir. Good luck with that, you're really going to need it. Hercules. Hey, if you're done talking, I'd like you to pay a little attention. Izuku. How do you know we were talking? Hercules. Well, we were walking. I was trying to talk to you, but when I saw that you weren't listening to me, I deduced that. Izuku. So what am I going to learn with you? Hercules. As you see, my club is big, I'm going to teach you how to use it apart from my abilities. For example, this tattoo is part of my power. The bigger it gets the more power I have, even though I feel enormous pain about it, and not only that I have to teach you about how to make a house. I could see that you were looking for where to make your house, since I understand that you only live in a cave. Izuku. That's right, you really are good at investigating a person, maybe it will help me later. Hercules. It's that I was able to learn it from Jack. When I was dead and the gods planned this, I started talking to Jack about this, since we wanted to get to know each other a little more, and he taught me many things, even though I didn't teach him many. Izuku. With that evil master of deception personified teaching things to the one who represents justice itself, wow, I had to see that for real. Hercules. Please just don't remind me of all the bad things. Izuku. Fine, as long as you teach me how to use your skills aside from how to defend myself and all that, we can progress with all of this, and we won't have any problems. Hercules. Then it's better to start before we miss something that is very important to all of us. Mjolnir. This indicates that we will have another weapon in the arsenal, and apparently it does not speak. Izuku. Calm down just a little, nothing more than that. Mjolnir. Don't give me orders. Izuku. This is going to be a huge problem with you. Hercules. Come on, let's get this started. Thus by saying that they began to train with the red-haired skills. In the city during those 2 years it could be noticed that the words of the green-haired daughter of number 1 All Might and Inko hit them quite hard, since All Might ended up returning to the place where the body of his supposed deceased son was supposedly located, noticing how he was not there. Deducing that he could have reached the shore, causing them to begin the search even more than before. Now in the house, Midoriya Izumi was at school, and Inko was just cleaning some things until she saw Toshinori enter the house somewhat tired. Inko. Did you find anything? Toshinori. No, again there is no trace of Izuku, nobody knows where he is, and I can't find anything about him or anyone else, unfortunately that's all I have. Inko. I can't believe it, my baby, my little baby, I did so much wrong for so long, and he loved me anyway, I must be a disaster as a mother, just like Izumi said 2 years ago. Toshinori. Don't worry, we'll find something, we just have to keep looking. He said this while hugging her. At one point he ended up receiving a message making him see it was from Davi. Toshinori. If you let me, I have to see some things. The man walked away to see what it was. Davi. I was looking at what you sent me, and it turns out that waterfall went directly to the sea, it had a current that led directly to that part, so if you threw something in that place and you want to recover it, I'm very sorry, you may never find it. At such a thing, Toshinori dropped the phone to the floor while holding his head at the news he ended up receiving from his best friend. Toshinori. Never, I'm so sorry Izuku, I'm really sorry, maybe I'm number 1 among the heroes, but as a father, your father, I was truly the worst in the world. At one point I look at a photo where they were with Izumi. Toshinori. But I don't plan on letting anything bad happen to your sister, I won't let her down. He said it in a way that was determined. On the island, Izuku was sitting on the floor while looking at the sky, only to take out an old photo that was of his sister. Hercules. Who is she? Izuku. She's my sister, she was the only person who supported me at all times, someone very special to me when everyone abandoned me mercilessly and treated me badly. Hercules. You must really love her. Izuku. If anything, I plan to go to where she is when I finish my training, so I can help her with whatever she needs, no matter what she asks me for. Hercules. In that case we really must hurry if we want to at least try to get you back with her, just by looking at your face I can tell that you really care and you must protect her, that is a good thing, something that not many get to do. Izuku. Yes, that's true. He said this while looking at the sky with the cloak of night and the stars adorning the whole place. Pap 6. 3 years passed since Izuku was able to train with Hercules, learning from his abilities how to use his tattoo at will, becoming stronger than before due to all the power he could accumulate just so that he could make a house in the quiet meadow, apart from now having the red-haired tattoo. It was another morning in which Izuku was getting up calmly without problems, only to open his eyes wide while giving a small yawn when he just woke up. Izuku. Wow, that was a good dream, I even think it was one of the best I've ever had. Mjolnir. Maybe it is that way, listen, to be honest we went through a long training and we never rested, at least this time I want to be calm. Izuku. It's true, we've always been training all this time, I think a little break won't hurt us. He said this as he walked out of his house with Mjolnir tied to his back with a cloth. Izuku. So now we must rest, we just have to think about where to go. Mjolnir. If I remember correctly, there is a stream nearby that some fish pass through. Izuku. Now that you mention it, it has some trees that give it a perfect light, apart from the fact that the fish are beautiful and some birds sing in the area. Mjolnir. Now that we've decided I'd like to go now, I don't like to wait too long. Izuku. I heard you, sir, complaints, come on now just let me wake up properly, I literally just got up. He said this as he walked through the forest, reaching a stream which he began to follow. As he walked he listened to the birds singing as he watched the fish passing through the water, making it a relaxing place, apart from the fact that the trees let in some of the sun, making it a shady place. Izuku. It's better than I thought, at least once we calm down it won't hurt us. Mjolnir. Now you can see it, we can relax, and the best part is that no one will bother us. Izuku. That's right, I think there's still some time before the next deity arrives. He said this as he walked until he sat down in front of the stream near a blackberry bush, as he did so he began to eat a little of the blackberries while he watched the animals that passed by the place. Man. This place is perfect to sleep for a while, don't you think? Izuku. If it really is, it really is. Man. I even think it would have been better to make your house in this place, it would have been much better. Izuku. Yes, but then I wouldn't have trained because I would never have left my bed for that place. He said it calmly until he thought for a few seconds to realize something. Izuku. Who are you? He said it somewhat scared as he stood up suddenly realizing that he was not alone and that he never noticed the man's presence. Man. Calm down boy, I am the destroyer of worlds, I am known as Shiva. These were the words of a man with blue skin, black hair, he looked like he had 3 eyes, the third one being on his forehead apart from some black lines below his eyes, yellow pants with a green ribbon as a belt, he had another yellow ribbon on his head apart from 4 arms. Izuku. When did you arrive? Shiva. This morning, but when I saw you asleep I didn't want to bother you, that's why I came to this place. Izuku. I see, so you're really not someone who worries about many things. Shiva. No, why? Life was made to be enjoyed. Izuku. So if that's what you say, I'd like to know now your reasons for coming. Shiva. Well, it turns out that I got tired of being the one at the top of India, so I passed my position on to an old friend. Almost immediately I realized that there wasn't much point until they came up with this idea and I accepted then. Izuku. And now you're talking to me. Shiva. Yes, apart from that, during my battle of the 5th of Ragnarok I lost 3 arms, I barely had 1. Izuku. You don't have much reason to do this then. Shiva. No, the truth is I don't have them, I just got tired of all this and giving this power to a mortal who can bear it, I see it as ideal. Izuku. Wow, I can tell you're really causing a lot of trouble. Shiva. Not much, I just want to enjoy life and dance a little. Izuku. I see, then what are you going to teach me? Shiva. Not much, like enjoying life, being calm, having more than 2 or 3 wives at the same time, like fighting a little and dancing. Izuku. I don't think dancing is something that's good to learn. Shiva. Then come with me, this is going to be annoying. He said this as he stood up, they walked towards a forest where upon arriving they could only begin to stand in front of each other. Izuku. You want to fight to see my skills. Shiva. Actually it's just for fun. Saying that, Izuku launched himself against him, trying to hit him, but he missed, attacking Shiva, who managed to dodge him, so that he could once again dodge a kick from Izuku, who upon noticing this, could only proceed with a series of punches and kicks, not a single one of which managed to connect with Shiva's body, who had a smile on his face at such a thing. Shiva. Come on, hit me at least. Izuku. Damn, just let me get any closer and you're going to end up on the floor. He said this as he tried to hit him in the face, but was easily dodged by the deity who then kicked him, sending him flying and crashing into the floor. When he was barely able to get up, Shiva hit him with a punch that made him crawl across the floor just so she could see him. Izuku. His blows are direct and precise, it is impossible for him to do anything to him because of the speed he is going. When he looked at Shiva who was in his place he realized something he didn't notice before. Izuku. Wait a minute, it's not an improvised attack or something, it's dance moves. He said this as he watched a deity dancing in front of him. Shiva. Well, now that you've figured it out we can proceed with the rest of things. He said this as he lunged at Izuku. After a while the boy was on the ground completely beaten, bleeding from some parts of his body as he looked at the sky. Shiva. And that is my dance, when I do it I am able to overcome many things even if you don't realize it. Izuku. Impressive, dance is a deadly weapon. If you use it properly, you really are someone powerful. Shiva. And you didn't see everything Izuku, I still have to teach you more things if we want you to truly learn something from all this, it's very important that you do. But that Izuku's face changed into a smile. Izuku. I can't wait for that. He said this while he was cheerfully lying on the floor in front of Shiva who had a smile on his face. Elsewhere, leaving a school, Izumi was walking out with her friends, talking to each other. Momo. I can't believe Bakugo keeps bothering you about dating you. Izumi. I know, at any moment I'm going to burn his face. Hami. He wants to get into the UA anyway, I don't think that will happen. Momo. Speaking of which, my parents recently told me that I might end up at UA in the future on recommendation, so that I can be a great heroine. Izumi. Now that you say that, the same thing happened to me, I'm ready to enter the UA in the future, or that's what my parents told me, so that everything can be okay. Jiru. Both of them are very lucky. Izumi. I don't think it's much. Hami. But they talk about UA, the best academy of all to be a hero. Jiru. Apart from the best, some like Endeavor, All Might, Hawks, Mirko and others came from that place. Izumi. Yes, it is true, but that doesn't mean that it is still just a school. She said it while they were walking, when they continued a little further they reached a moment where the friends ended up separating. Izumi. A little more Izuku, I'm going to fulfill our dream for the two of us just for that. He said this with a smile in the air. Elsewhere Izuku was eating with Izuku. Shiva. Yes, you really had a bad family, but that doesn't matter anymore. Izuku. Yes, but just to know a little, you have something to do with quirks. Shiva. To be honest, yes, a long time ago we thought it was good for humans to have powers after Ragnarok, that's why we chose to give humans powers, something good or so we thought, now that we saw it well they are still the same, although now they are better than before. Izuku. So that means I can do something with quirks. Shiva. I'm afraid not, only the pure gods apart from the fact that everyone is needed to be able to do something about it, but in any case, it doesn't take away the fact that even on one side of you, you are still immortal. Izuku. I see, by the way, the human you faced, you said that he had 3 arms, he had to be very strong. Shiva. Yes, I was going to be the second participant of the gods, but Zeus's old man changed everything, he ended up getting involved, and so I ended up being the 5th fighter, anyway I think that human from the second fight would have killed me. Izuku. That means Zeus was going to fight someone else. Shiva. Yes, one named Raiden, that guy really hit hard, he really did well despite being only immortal with super strength. Izuku. Without a doubt all the humans who fought are powerful and very much so even if they don't seem like it. Shiva. I'm afraid so, now let's just try to relax. He said this as he just went to sleep in front of Izuku's gaze who sighed. Izuku. I hope not all gods are like him. He said this as he went to sleep in the same way. Hap 7. 2 years passed since Izuku and Shiva's training, causing that deity from India to manage to make Izuku have a rather dangerous art related to dance, only for 1 more year to pass, in which Izuku could only continue with things as he left them, returning to the city, causing him to return to that place where he had his greatest suffering, Japan, that place where he least wanted to return. But to face his past it was necessary. Izuku. Back home just so I can get over a little thing. Mjolnir. Then it's good that Shiva told us that he left us a small gift from the gods. Izuku. Yes, a bank account with a lot of money, that will be very useful so we can continue with all this. Voice. And that wasn't the only thing I left them as a memory. Another voice from his mind said it. Mjolnir. It's true, I forgot that you were there, Grimjo. One of the gifts that Shiva left to Izuku was a katana that was forged by all the pantheons, Greek, Norse, Indian, Japanese and more, making it a sword with a life of its own, and the weapon that only Izuku could use with all its power. Grimjo. Come on, it seems like it really bothers you that this is like another living weapon of Izuku's that way he doesn't spend all his time talking to you. Mjolnir. I don't care about that anyway. Izuku. Calm down both of you, we have to do some things. Grimjo. Then I would like to know that the first thing is to look for those supposed ex-parents that you have. Izuku. No, I want to visit my sister first, I just want to do that now. He said this as he walked to a part having some glances from some people since he had the same outfit that Thor had when he first showed up, being a coat that covered everything except half of his face up. Elsewhere, Class 1 of the UA had some problems since they were surrounded by Kurogiri, who was looking at them. Kurogiri. Hello, we are the League of Villains and we came to kill All Might, although since we don't see him anywhere, I'm afraid we must kill them. At that point they began to see how he began to bring more villains who surrounded the entire Class A. Villain 1. They're just kids, we can kill them, they're not a problem. Villain 2. Although those girls look pretty hot, I think we can have fun with them. 13. Everyone try to stay away from the villains, attack if necessary. Without realizing it, the door of the USJ was opened as someone entered with slow, silent and confident steps. Izumi. I'm not going to fall for this part, not even as a joke. Amy. I think we can handle all of them, they won't give us that much trouble really. Bakugo. Come on, just try to get closer and I'll kill you. Shota. I think we're going to fight anyway. The girl in the color of Endeavor's daughter said it. At one point Kurogiri began to hear footsteps, so he looked behind him to see who it was. Kurogiri. Who the hell are you? Those were his words before being crushed by a huge hammer that made a current of wind that scattered Kurogiri, and everyone covered themselves immediately to see who it was. They only saw a young man with green hair, and with only one arm he lifted that giant hammer. Izuku. I can't stand a single hit, what a disappointment. Those were his words as he revealed that dark eye to the villains, who were immediately intimidated. Izuku. If you want to keep your lives and not end up like this trash, you better go back to where you came from. They saw it as if it were an order and everyone ran away from the group. Amy. Who is that? Haminari. I don't know, but it's very scary. Sato. It seems like he's not paying attention to us, I think that's good. They saw how he began to walk towards them, holding the huge hammer on his shoulder to pass between them, reaching a part where he looked to the side, his gaze fixed on Izumi, who only managed to see how he approached her. Izumi. Who are you and what do you want? Izuku. It seems like 12 years have passed and you forget about me as if nothing happened, sister. I almost feel sad about that, it's a shame, isn't it? Saying that, Izumi just looked at that green hair that was like his left eye, realizing things only to let out some tears. Izumi. Are you really Izuku? They said you ran away and they left you for dead. Izuku. More like I almost got killed, but are you going to stay still or are you going to greet your older brother? But that the girl ended up hugging the young man in front of her before everyone's eyes, some of whom were surprised. Mineta. Who is it? Amy. He is Izumi's brother, or is assumed to be, since he has been missing for 12 years. At one point they heard a scream of pain, it being Izawa, who was only being tortured by the Nomu. Izuku. It seems that you are in trouble, let me take care of everything. He said this as he made his hammer disappear and took off his coat, revealing his toned body, as well as those tattoos with some scars. Lita. He looks very strong. Haminari. But I don't think I can take on the Nomu. They watched as he began to slowly descend the stairs, taking out a trident in front of the villain's gaze. Tamura. Who is that? Kurogiri. He was the one who crushed me. Tamura. No importa, no Muyalo. The Nomu launched itself against Izuku, holding Izawa in one of its hands. When it tried to hit it, Izuku passed by it, only for the Nomu to crash into the stairs. When everyone saw better, Izuku had Izawa in his hand. Izuku. You're too slow. He said this as the Nomu was emerging from the dust, having a hand that was missing and had regenerated. Izuku. You can heal, that's interesting, so let's try this. In a moment the Nomu ended up with the trident stuck in his chest, causing him to fall to the floor, and in a second Izuku was with the entire class, leaving them on the floor. Izumi. How did you do that? Izuku. Let's say I have a quirk that gives me many abilities, but that's for another time, it's better if they go, I'll take care of them. He said this as he turned around and walked towards the Nomu, whose trident ended up disappearing. Mineta. I wouldn't want to have him as an enemy, he's very scary. Haminari. He's strong, but very strong indeed. Momo. I think it's best to do what we were told and leave. Amy. But he can't fight so many villains alone. He said this while looking at Izuku, who was calm. Izuku. I think I better start preparing to destroy them. Saying that, everyone saw how part of his body began to change as he began to grow a little bigger, and not only those, his muscles began to increase before everyone's eyes. Sai. Not for nothing, but what quirk does your brother have? Izumi. I don't know, he's supposed to be quirkless, so it's impossible for him to do something like that. 13. There are cases in which quirkless people have a quirk over time because they are cases in which it takes time, they are rare cases but not impossible. Momo. This is impressive, although I think we should help him. Tamura. Damn idiot, my Nomu was made to kill All Might, there's no way you can beat him. Izuku. So Nomu, that's interesting really, that means it's not human so I can kill that thing, although if you say that you mean it can absorb All Might's blows, that's interesting. Tamura. And no, it gets stronger with the damage it takes. Izuku. In that case let's test its true damage. He said this as he walked towards the Nomu just like it, the Nomu tried to hit him with its claws, but Izuku could only dodge them. Izuku. Those were good, but it's my turn, direct hits. By saying that he began to hit the Nomu causing it to begin to receive all possible damage from the green-haired man, causing it to retreat before everyone's eyes. Kurogiri. Impressive, he is managing to push back the Nomu. Tamura. Yes, but the Nomu is going to rejoin. Izuku. Now meteor strikes. But that word I end up making those blows even worse for the Nomu, causing him to end up flying and crashing into a wall. Izuku. I think your Nomu can't handle me, you better start giving up or I'll be forced to destroy you all. Tamura. Don't think this is over, the Nomu is just beginning to show what he's truly worth. But that the Nomu left the place going directly against Izuku to give him a blow that made him retreat before everyone's eyes. Momo. Looks like that hit was too hard. Jiru. I think he needs help now. Izuku. It was a good hit, but let's see what you think of this, energy accumulation. But that he began to raise and lower his heels at high speed, so that he began to run around the Nomu, until he ended up kicking it from the side, sending it crashing into a wall. Izuku. I think I better end this, I'm starting to get really bored. He said this as he began to change back to his normal state, just to take out his trident. Kurogiri. This is bad, with that thing he uses some incredibly fast attacks. Izuku. Flood of 40 days and 40 nights. But that trident ended up crashing into the Nomu's entire body, causing him to end up with hundreds of cuts all over his body. Everyone watched as his wounds healed to be reopened by Izuku's trident, who at one point stopped attacking, causing the Nomu to almost fall to the ground so that he could begin to heal his wounds. Kurogiri. I think we should go. Tamura. No, we can't just leave this as if nothing happened. The Nomu only began to go against Izuku little by little, while he began to take out Mjolnir which shone in place. Izuku. Do me a favor Nomu, don't die on the first hit. Mjolnir. This is over. He said this as he began to get into a battle stance, making it seem as if that huge hammer was almost going to fall from his grasp. Mineta. It's going to fall. Haminari. He can't hold something that big for that long. He said this as they watched as Izuku only stopped for a moment. Izuku. Mjolnir Thor's hammer. But that he stood up so that the Nomu in front of him hit him full on with the huge hammer, causing him to end up making a pillar of electricity in the place that ended up breaking the ceiling. When the dust went away everyone saw the Nomu who was unconscious on the floor, being that he was just healing from his wounds. Izuku. I can't even take a hit. He said it with clear boredom, being heard by everyone. Ajiro. He said it as if he was bored with defeating that monster. Heimi. That means when he pulls out that big hammer, that's when it's all over. At one point Izuku set his sights on the villains only to walk towards them. Izuku. You guys continue, if you can withstand a hit from Mjolnir it will be lucky, but if you can't then it will be a shame to see you die from a simple hit. He said this with clear boredom as he walked towards them. Kurogiri. We should go, this seems to have some secrets that we can't see. Tamura. I agree with you. He said this as they were leaving the place, at the same time the doors finally opened letting the professionals in and with that the villains had no choice but to surrender. Izuku. They give up as if nothing happened, what a waste of time. All Might. Now everyone must surrender now, and the one with the hammer seems to be the leader, you better surrender. Izuku. First I came to help my sister who was in danger, second I don't take orders from anyone, third I'm not interested anyway, I'm done with these idiots, and fourth I'm leaving. He said this as he began to walk towards the exit in front of everyone's gaze. Izumi. Wait Izuku, you still have to answer some things, you can't just leave like nothing happened. All Might. Wait, Izuku said. Nezu. The same name of the boy who has been missing for 12 years. In this way they began to talk to each other while they looked at the young man who only stopped for the girl. Izuku. Don't worry, I plan to visit you anyway, you know, to make up for lost time. Izumi. It's not that, it's something else I want to talk to you about. Nezu. Wait a moment young Izuku before I would like to talk to you a little if there are no problems. Izuku. Sounds good to me. These were his words as he walked over to where the professionals were. Hap 8. Izuku was walking with the professionals through the place without problems. That young green-haired boy was calm and did not care that he had the gaze of All Might, his ex-father on him. The young man walked until he entered the director's office, where they simply sat down being that there was Izawa, Midnight and Sniper, apart from All Might of course. Nezu. So young Izuku, I would like to know what is happening, out of nowhere you appear and save an entire class by yourself. Izuku. Well, let's say that 12 years ago some people saved me from certain death, since then they trained me, and when the time came they died of old age leaving everything to me. I wanted to come to face my past, and I had to visit my sister first. I understood that she was in the UA. Nezu. And that's why you entered the USJ like nothing. Izuku. I was passing by, the light seemed to have exploded, and I heard screams. Nezu. And I can see that he possesses great power. Izuku. Yes, my quirk is called Divine Law. It lets me have the power of some gods like Thor, Poseidon and others that I haven't awakened yet, but sooner or later I will. Nezu. I see, apparently you want to take good care of your sister Izumi Midoriya, so I would like to know if you want to enter UA. I mean, having a student like you can be very useful. Izuku. Well yes, but I would like to talk to you alone. Nezu. Sounds good to me. Izawa. Of course not, we can't leave you alone with the director. Midnight. It's true, we can't just leave you like nothing happened. Izuku. In that case I would like for All Might to at least leave, we will have fewer problems. At that Nezu signaled All Might to leave the room and walked out of the room. Nezu. Listo. Izuku. Okay, now let's put all the cards on the table. We all know that Izuku Midoriya and Toshinori known as All Might are my parents, it's something they can't help, and that I was supposed to be quirkless. Izawa. It seems that you really proved to be his lost son. Izuku. Ex-son, I don't consider that shit as my parents. Nezu. I would like to know why. Izuku. When they found out I was quirkless they mistreated me, the scars I have were caused by them, and that's why I hate them. At one point they wanted to eliminate me when they threw me into a waterfall, knowing that I can't swim. Sniper. And suddenly you learned and got out of the water when he left. Izuku. No, they took me out, but I was unconscious. A man named Thor called himself the god of thunder of the Norse pantheon, a god saved my life. Izawa. That sounds crazy. Nezu. Wait, let me finish. Izuku. That deity told me everything so I could completely believe him, he even took a knife and tried to stab himself, but it ended up breaking. Midnight. You know that could be a quirk. Izuku. Yes, I know, but then I wouldn't have lifted that huge hammer that I have with one hand, as if it were a separate piece of paper. It explained many things to me like one for all and all for one. Nezu. It seems more and more like we actually have to take you seriously. Izuku. Well, thanks for a little vote of confidence. Sniper. And how can we truly believe? Izuku. You see, the gods, some of whom were killed by humans and others, did not decide to give humanity a chance, transferring their abilities to a mortal to whom they granted the ability to endure divinity. That is why they came to me, they gave me their powers, 5 of them, Thor, Zeus, Poseidon, Hercules and Shiva. Nezu. To be honest, I recently saw the USJ stuff and you showed that you had more than one ability and one quirk, we even thought you used 3 different things. Izuku. Well, thank you for understanding. Izawa. Anything else to make us believe you? Izuku. Yeah, just look for something. He said it to give an exact location making them look at it, noticing that it was just a point in the sea. Izawa. No hey nada. Izuku. If there is something, an island which in a meadow has a house on one of the mountains, is partly destroyed by my training with the gods, you can go and find it. Midnight. What happens if we don't find it? I mean, if there's nothing. Izuku. Then they can arrest me and take me as a suspect. Nezu. Sounds good. Midnight, Sniper and Ryukyu are going apart from Endeavor. Saying that, they began to leave the room so they could prepare everything. Nezu. Well young Izuku, I hope we get along very well. Izuku. I say the same. Nezu. I hope you don't mind if we send him to Class A so he can be with his sister. Izuku. Well, I'd be grateful for that, and by the way, call me Izuku Olympus. He said this to get up and leave the room. 2 days passed in which everyone returned to UA to see what they were going to do now. It is worth saying that they found the island, now in Class A. Everyone was happy because Izawa their teacher told them about the sports festival. Hiroshima. Now I'm excited. Mina. That's gonna be fun. Izawa. Another thing, as you well know our number is odd, so we will have a new student. Lita. But teacher, I don't think it's good to have more students in a single class. Izawa. I don't care, Nezu wanted this, now go in and introduce yourself. But that they saw how Izuku entered before everyone's eyes, being surprised by such a thing, although Izumi was happy about this. Izuku. Hello everyone, my name is Izuku Olympus, I think it's a pleasure to be a partner of some of you, I just want to make something clear, whoever bothers my little sister, or even interrupts me while I'm sleeping even once will die. He said it with a look and a feeling that froze everyone except Izumi. Izawa. If you want, you can sit down. But that the green-haired man went to sit next to Izumi who only had a nervous smile. Izumi. I know we haven't seen each other in a long time, but I think you've been over the top. Izuku? You think so? I guess I need to improve my manners. At one point some began to approach where Izuku was, making him not care much. Mina. Hey, so you're really Izumi's brother? Izuku. Yes, I was born before her by a few days. Hiroshima. But they have different last names. Izuku. That's because a while ago my parents tried to kill me, some people who were my teachers in the future saved me, and since then I am not a Midoriya, but Olympus. Momo. It's a pleasure, I'm Momo Yaoi Rozu, Izumi's friend, like Kami and Jiro. The green-haired boy just looked at his sister who had a smile. Izumi. They are friends after a time when you disappeared so they became very close friends. Haminari. Hey, those weapons you used were really cool. Izuku. If you're talking about my trident and Mjolnir, yes, they are weapons left to me by my masters. Hiroshima. Can we see them? In his hands came out a katana which shone before the others. Sato. It's impressive. In a second they heard a voice coming from the gun. Grimjo. So that girl is the so-called Izumi, sister of my bearer, it's a pleasure to meet you. All. Can you talk? Izuku. It's my katana. Grimjo has a life of its own just like Mjolnir. Shota. A talking gun, I didn't expect that. Grimjo. Well, since you brought me out to be known, send me back where I came from. But that I enter Izuku's body before everyone's eyes. Hiroshima. What kind of training did they give you? Izuku. One that forced me to break my bones if necessary. Izumi. Hey brother, you always knew how to handle or improve a quirk, I would like to know if you can help me with my training so I can become stronger. Izuku. I have no problem, if you want your friends can do the same. Momo. Would you really train us? Izuku. If my sister asks me then yes, if I don't spend some time with her, I plan to fulfill certain whims if you can put it in a certain way. At one point the bell rang causing everyone to stand up. Izuku. You know Izumi, if you need anything you just have to call me. He said this as he walked past making her open the door and finding all the classes. Sato. What are they doing? Bakugo. Spy on the enemy. Izuku. Everybody get out of my way or I'll destroy you all. He said this, letting out a killer instinct that ended up making everyone start to get scared as everyone started to make way for him, except for one boy. Monoma. Seriously, a new member for class 1 is just someone who can't do anything but threaten. He said it in a mocking tone with arrogance towards Izuku who began to walk towards him. Kendo. Enough already. Monoma seems to be totally different from the rest of his class. Monoma. Please, a barking dog, don't die. Before he could finish speaking, he was grabbed by the face and lifted into the air. Izuku. Well, this dog does bite and I don't like people getting in my way. He said this to throw him far away causing him to crash into a wall. Kendo. Hey, you didn't have to do that. Izuku. I don't like people telling me what to do or getting in my way, now don't bother me. Kendo. Not at all, you have to behave better if you really want to get along with others. Izuku. I didn't come to make friends, don't bother me now. At one point Kendo again got in his way and slapped him. Kendo. Do it now and apologize. Izuku was just about to eliminate her at any moment, but he heard something. Izumi. Please brother, don't try to destroy the school, we just want everything to be okay. At that everyone just looked between the sister and how different her brother was in attitude at first glance. Izuku. Okay, I'm going to tell you that I deserve that punch, but I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to apologize with the garbage I sent flying, now leave me alone, you're not going to try to provoke me. He said this as he walked past a girl as if it were nothing, the rest of the class just starting to follow suit. Izumi. Sorry about that, he's not quite like that. He said this to go to where his brother was. Izumi. Hey, you shouldn't just send people flying like it's nothing, it's not bad to have friends. Izuku. No need, I have Mjolnir and Grimjo as my friends. Momo. Well, a weapon can't just be a friend. Kami. That's true, maybe it will help you if we teach you certain manners so that you behave better. Hiroshima. And you need a man to listen to you if you have problems. He said this as he approached her gaze. Izuku. This is going to be annoying. Izumi. Well, if you don't have any problems, I'd like to know about the training. Izuku. Look, I'll let you come to my house and stay overnight for as long as you have to train, but I'll give you a limited number of people. Izumi. I'm fine with that, trust me, this won't bother you. Izuku. I hope so, I wouldn't want to regret this decision. He said this as he walked before the gaze of his sister who only smiled at him, and from a distance Bakugo looked at this, while remembering those moments he had with his old childhood friend, who now showed himself to be someone who should not be messed with in his eyes. Hap 9. Time passed since Izuku could begin his light training just to be able to be stronger, apart from the fact that he was going to have the sports festival. Now he was with class 1 preparing everything to be able to begin the main part of the sports festival. Izumi. I'm quite nervous, I really don't know what I can do right now with all this. Izuku. Just try to calm down, it's just a festival. Shota. Hey Izumi, I don't know why, but All Might has his eyes on you, as you know my father has a rivalry with him, so no matter what happens, I plan to defeat you. At that, the green-haired girl just got nervous. Izumi. You're seriously declaring war on me? Shota. As for you Izuku, I can only tell you that you seem to be the strongest of all, therefore I plan to defeat you however possible, no matter how, in the end you are going to eat the floor. Izuku. Then let's say no more, I look forward to seeing who loses in the end. That way I saw her color begin to move away only for some to look at her. Hey me. I don't understand your problem, you challenge them as if it were nothing. Izuku. It's clearly because he knows we're a threat to victory, currently we're all enemies until we have to work as a group. He said this as he started walking in front of everyone's eyes. When it was his turn they started leaving just so they could get to where everyone was, making some people nervous. Hiroshima. Wow, that's too many people. Haminari. And they all come to see us, this is great. Bajiro. I don't understand how some people can be calm. Heimi. Possibly Bakugo is because he sees everyone as inferior, and Shota is because she is the daughter of Endeavor and Izuku, that is a doubt. Izuku. Well, I know a place where there are more people than these and bigger fights take place, this is nothing to me. In that way, like the original story, everyone had to listen to Bakugo say the words that were supposed to inspire everyone, only for it to be exactly like the original story, causing some to end up booing him. Midnight. Well, does anyone else want to say something more inspiring? At that question many wanted to go through it, so using his whip, he grabbed whoever it was bringing Izuku to the platform. Izuku. Why me? Midnight. For being the protagonist. But that he put the young man in front of everyone just so he could take things so he could talk. Izuku. Well, I'm not going to lie to you, I feel superior to everyone, and I plan to show all my power as Bakugo must show, because he thinks that everyone is an extra, that should be enough to understand, but if someone else believes himself to be strong, or that he has enough strength to be able to humiliate the rest, then let him prove it, let him not think that his quirk is useless. He must prove that he is truly strong, he must prove it as it should be now, I would like to start with all this now. Jiru. At least it was more inspiring than Bakugo's. At that the ash-haired man only got angry, while Midnight went on to explain about the first part. Midnight. First we're going to start with an obstacle course, you all better be able to handle this. He said it while everyone began to get in that part to be able to start, since they were waiting for the order to be able to start, and as soon as they had an answer at the entrance, an ice wall was made by Shota, who began to advance, only so that they would begin to pass through that wall, but at one moment the same ice wall exploded because of Izuku, who only advanced passing the first ones. Present Mick. What a great start, just look at this, young Shota froze the entrance, but they managed to destroy it as if it were nothing. Izawa. They do everything they can to win, it's nothing new. Shota was running until at one point he began to notice Izuku, who was only standing next to him, running as if it were nothing. Izuku. Don't think that you're just going to be able to pass me by like it's nothing, sooner or later you're going to have someone who surpasses you. Shota. Don't think you're actually going to be able to pass me by like it's nothing. She said this while throwing a quantity of ice at him, which the young man managed to dodge, only to get to the other side of the girl. Izuku. It's like they say, every beautiful rose has dangerous thorns. He said this as he increased his speed until they stopped due to some zero-point robots, making it impossible for them to continue any further. Shota. And now they put robots in the festival, I just hope it gets a little more interesting. Izuku. It doesn't matter, they are trash in front of me. He said this as he took out a trident, causing everyone to notice this, while in one jump, almost seeming to teleport, he ended up disappearing to make a hole in the heads of some robots as he passed, surprising everyone with that. Present Mick. Impressively it seems that young Izuku can summon weapons and can even go at enormous speed. Izawa. I understand that his quirk is deity, he has different abilities including enormous speed, and judging by the trident I can say that he is from Poseidon. Present Mick. This is so exciting, I just want to know how you're going to respond to the next part of the festival. Izuku only passed between the robots, while Shota only managed to freeze them until he reached a part where he could continue running with the Vi color, trying to freeze the young man who managed to dodge. Shota. I don't understand why I can't give it to you. Izuku. Calm down lioness, just try to keep a certain distance, not everything is possible in life. Shota. I'm not going to give up on you anyway, I just have to keep going no matter what. Izuku. Then let's see how we can continue. At one point he stopped when he noticed that he was in front of a cliff and that the only way to cross was by a rope that was tied to it or by some rocks. Shota. I think you can't keep advancing like before, but I do. But those words, he began to pass with ice before the young man's eyes, who sighed. Izuku. Let's see if those words are true. He began to jump while stepping on the rocks to pass through them without problems, trying to do everything possible to get to the other side where he began to run, doing everything possible to continue like Shota, while the rest just watched them. Jiru. I don't understand how those two can continue like that as if nothing happened. Bakugo. Wretches, I'm not going to let them surpass me like nothing, I'm going to surpass them. Izumi. My brother is really strong, it doesn't even seem like he's trying hard. Momo. That's true, but now I have doubts about the limit of his power. At one point he noticed how Mineta was about to jump on him, but at one point a rock hit him causing him to fall to the ground. Mineta. What the hell was that? In doubt, I managed to see the green-haired man from afar, quite calm, only to have a deathly look. Momo. It seems that he protects me a little more than I expected, even though he said that we were going to be enemies. Izumi. I think it's because during this time you were a good friend, you know, it's kind of protective. Momo. I see. She said this so she could continue running with her friend. Present Mick. This is impressive, it seems like they've easily exceeded our expectations, but I don't think it's enough because they're going to need more than just speed for the next part. He said this as he watched the students running, when Izuku arrived only to notice a mounds of dirt making him stop, causing Shota to do the same, suspecting that the young man was stopped in that way. Shota. Looks like you noticed something. At one point the green-haired man just grabbed a rock and threw it at one of the mounds of earth, causing it to explode. Izuku. Interesting, it seems like they really want to put effort into this, but it's nothing out of pity. The young man in one leap began to avoid those parts without problems, doing everything possible to be able to pass, being that he only dodged all the explosives with mastery, surprising some because it came to seem like child's play. Shota before that only began to advance with his ice trying to reach the green-haired man. Izumi. This is bad, I can't keep up with them like that, I have to move in a different way or I'll end up last. The girl noticed a part of a 0-point robot only to smile and start using it. On the other hand, Izuku had a few problems only because he was avoiding the explosives, Shota's ice apart from Bakugo's explosions, since they saw him as the biggest threat in competition at that moment. Bakugo. Wretched man, I'm not going to let anyone get the better of me, as if it were nothing. Shota. I can't lose to you, I just declared war on you. Izuku. It certainly seems like both of them have the idea of beating me, it's a shame they won't achieve it. At one point he began to hear an explosion happen not too far away, only for him to see an Izumi who was catching up to them, causing them to stop fighting each other and start running, and when she caught up to them, she got on top of her brother, only to activate the explosives in front of the three of them, allowing him to advance further. Shota. No, this is bad, they are going to surpass me this way. Bakugo. No, I'm supposed to be the next number one, I can't lose a simple race. Izuku. So you can use explosives to get ahead of the rest, use the disadvantage as an advantage, I'm really proud of you Izumi, but now you're going to see your brother's true capabilities. With that, the speed increased even further, reaching the point of detonating the bombs, except that he was not there when they exploded. Present Mick. Let's see who's first, who's going to be in first place. Midnight. I can already see who's going to get there first. In the dark hallway was Izuku at high speed, Shota with his ice, Bakugo using his explosions while Izumi tried to run. Izumi. I must win, I must do it. Midnight. First place goes to Izumi Midoriya. She said this as the green-haired girl went first, followed by Izuku and Shota, while Bakugo stayed fourth, becoming quite annoyed as the rest slowly began to arrive. Izuku. I didn't expect this result, but I think I'll settle for second place. Izumi. Wow, I really surpassed you. He said this as he began to laugh causing the young man to have a slight smile, causing some to notice this, but at one point he left while looking to the side, where no one was looking being that there was a man with a hood and a cape on. Izuku. So you came to this place, I'm going to be interested in this. He said this as he slowly began to have a sadistic smile mixed with emotion, being noticed by some who had doubts about why that face. App 10. At the festival many managed to get through only for a few to be missing, although Izuku was calm until he noticed how he was called by Nezu, making him walk towards him, while some did not understand what was happening at that moment. Momo. Hey Izumi, it seems like your brother won't be with us for the next part of the test. Izumi. I don't know what's going on, it's probably something important going on between him and the director. The green-haired young man walked alone to be with Nezu who was looking at him. Nezu. Well young Izuku, I called him whatever you wanted, but this doesn't make sense. You know I can't take him out, except that you have to do the second part of the sports festival if you want people to see your skills. Izuku. Yes, I understand you, director, but I have something to propose. Nezu. If you say that, it must be very interesting. Izuku. It is, I want to propose that I can fight with all my power. Nezu. That already sounds interesting, but it was seen when they attacked the USJ. Izuku. I'm afraid not, director. Back then I was simply a Nomu, something that couldn't withstand all my power, but I was able to see someone in the stands, a person who has the ability to withstand all my power in combat. He is strong enough to be able to fight me and make me use all my power. At that the director just stared at him while he sighed at the words of the young man who had a smile. Nezu. I think it's fine, I can tell from your smile that it's serious, but before you go you should just know that there are some people who ask to see you, they are in a room. She said this, causing the young man to have no choice but to start walking, arriving at a room where he saw some girls. The first one was a girl with long black hair, yellow ribbons in her hair, tattoos on her body, white bandages covering her breasts, white pants with black fabrics, wooden sandals, and her teeth were like fangs. The second one was a very beautiful girl, she was blonde with deep blue eyes, only having some leaves covering her private parts, along with a rather bored look. The third was a black-haired girl with pink threads tying her hair into a ponytail, along with a sword on her back, a pink combat kimono with a mesh shirt underneath it with a blue ribbon around her waist, as well as violet stockings that reached her thighs, and ending with wooden sandals. The three of them just stared at the young man as he began to get serious. Izuku. It seems that I met the daughters of the best fighters of humanity, Shigure, daughter of Sasaki Kajiro, Emma, the closest daughter of Adan, and Carol, the daughter of Lu Buhausen. It seems that the three came. Emma. So you're the one who has those gods inside, that makes it more interesting with everything that happens. Shigure. From a distance I can see why my father would want to face you, it could certainly be a fight I've never seen before, one like the one my mother told me about. Izuku. I don't think they came just to talk to me, they must have something more than that, they want to know something about me, otherwise I imagine it wrong. Emma. Exactly, although not many things. Peril. Our parents want to fight you, and we just want to know if you're strong enough to stand up to them. Izuku. That will be known when I get to fight one of them, now if you allow me I have to go, but before I imagine that he is in the stands, it must be him, I see that power from a distance. He said this while giving a slight glance to the girls who only gave a sigh. Shigure. If he's in the stands and he's waiting for the same thing you're waiting for, just try not to die against him, he's very good at this. Izuku. Whatever, I'm not going to make it easy for him. Peril. Hey, where are you going? Izuku. It's pretty obvious from the stands where I can see everything. Emma. Then we'll go with you. Izuku. If it's going to be like that then they should change, although I think Shigure is fine, if they see them dressed like that they might get other wrong ideas. Peril. I have no problem with that, it's easy to have other types of clothes, I even brought something. Emma. Not me, I'll stick with what I have. Izuku. If you don't change for good then we will change you for bad. Emma. I'd like to see it. Outside the room there began to be some noise with things being thrown, reaching some blood coming out from under the door for Carol to come out, who only put on a white short-sleeved shirt, while Emma was forced to have a shirt identical to Carol's, along with blue pants and white shoes. Shigure was normal, and Izuku had some blood all over his body. Izuku. Why did all the hits go straight to me? Emma. It happens to you for being some kind of deity, I can't just let anyone touch me like it's nothing. Shigure. Let's just get this over with, I want to finish this, and it gets more interesting as time passes. In that way they walked towards the stands where they saw how some were on cavalry, while Izuku came to cross paths with that man who still had everything covered, preventing anyone from seeing what he was like or who he was, just so they would stop at the same time where they were standing next to each other. Man. So you're the boy who's supposed to have that enormous power in combat. Izuku. Yes, I think it's a pleasure to meet you face to face as an honor. Man. Don't pretend, when the time comes to fight all that honor will go anywhere, it will be anywhere but in our fight, but you better hold on long enough to fight me. Izuku. Hey, calm down, you'll see that when the time comes to fight, the two of us will show who's in charge in this fight. Man. Sounds good to me, just don't die. I want it to last a little while, since everything has been very easy for me up until now. Izuku. If I imagine so, I hope you can endure the same way. The two of them began to walk away from each other, smiling at each other for such a reason until the young man reached the stands where the girls were to sit next to them. Emma. So you've already met him. Izuku. Yeah, looks like we share a bit of words, and this doesn't look bad at all. Peril. Anyway, this sports festival needs a real fight, this cavalry thing seems too simple. Izuku. Because it is, they are not people like us, we just have to know how to handle all this even if it is not easy. Shigeru. I suppose that when his fight arrives, people will begin to have doubts about why a young man can have so much power and still be in a school, or about that man who is capable of many things but is free. I suppose that these are things that no one will be able to understand for the moment once his fight is over. Izuku. I think that's what's going to happen, but we just have to wait until now. From another quarter, people began to talk about the young man. Present Mick. But what's going on? Young Izuku, who won second place in the previous test, is in the stands and seems to be analyzing things as they are going. I even think that if he goes to the third part of the sports festival, that will count as cheating. Izawa. In fact, Director Nezu warned me that young Izuku is going to fight, but not against one of them, but at the end of it all, he is going to fight with a person who does not belong to the class or the academy. That is going to make it interesting because he plans to fight with all his strength for the first time in years. At that, some just looked at the young man who was calm. Izumi. But what is Izuku doing? It doesn't make sense who he's going to fight either. Uraraka. She is supposed to be someone strong, she may not hold back, and we may see her full strength for the first time. Okoyami. Besides, since we met him a while ago, he had that smile that we had never been able to notice before in other people. That was what Izumi's group was talking about while the others were simply in that approaching fight. Shota. If I use all my power, I may not be able to fight him, but I will be able to see all his power. Momo. He managed to defeat that thing called Nomu that was created to destroy All Might. I think now it's going to be something similar. His opponent must be someone very strong like All Might or that Nomu. Lita. This should not be accepted by the director, it makes no sense that he would let something like this go. Haminari. Stop talking and try to focus on the fight we're having. Lita. It's true, we must move on to the next part. Some people even had doubts about the young man and his fight, since he never had the opportunity to show his full power, not even when he faced Nomu, since when he took out his hammer, he managed to show that he could defeat him with a single blow. Emma. You seem to be overanalyzed, it seems. Shigeru. This distracts them from the fight they are having and gives others the opportunity to take their points. Emma. I don't think there's much need to think about it anyway, not everyone is going to make it to part 3 of this, they're just going to lose a lot of them. Harold. Yes, although I think someone is analyzing their opponent too much. He said this while looking at Izuku, who had his gaze set on the man who was staring at the green-haired man while trying to analyze a way to beat him. Izuku. I can't wait to fight any longer, I'd like to start right now. Emma. That's going to be when we start to fight right away. Izuku. I think I have a plan to confront him, although I don't know if it will work, he has a lot of power on his part unlike me. Harold. So you're not going to fight? Izuku. The opposite makes things more exciting. Facing a power like this, I always wanted to do it, I don't plan on retiring in any way. She said this with a smile that she had on the man. Hap 11. At the sports festival things were starting to be like the original story, being that they were just starting to get things going with the fights, being that for everyone it was something quite normal, being everything like naming Bakugo number 1, Shota second place and Tokoyami third. Now more importantly, he was preparing some things. Present Mick. Now we're all going to be paying attention to the next match, as it's supposed to be a match that we're all going to have high expectations for. Izawa. We have the new student of the Ue Izuku God Academy who until now has shown great skills as a fighter, being someone who did not know his limits. But that they saw the young man who was just walking to the platform while he had his huge hammer in his hand, ready for anything. Present Mick. And in a few moments your opponent will be introducing himself. But those words, something fell from the sky, something that made a cloud of dust before the eyes of everyone who hoped for the best, as they began to see only 5 people coming out of the dust. Those people only allowed themselves to be seen by the eyes of everyone who was surprised by such an active presence. Midnight. Sorry, but I guess neither of you are the fighter we expected. Adan. In fact, there is one of us who is the fighter. Everyone from the stands watched this active presence wondering who they were. Momo. Who are those people? They look strong. Mineta. So he's going to fight one of those people. Ajiro. It looks interesting, maybe we'll actually see Izuku's true power. At that they only saw how the young man had that excited smile while he looked at his enemies for such a thing. Izuku. I know who my rival is, Lupu, we've been waiting for this for so long. But those words, the man had the same smile as he walked forward before everyone's eyes. Sasaki. Go on kid, I hope you manage to survive that beast's attacks. Jack. It will be interesting to see the outcome of this battle. Raiden. As long as it ends soon. But that they began to leave just to leave the platform for the 2 fighters. Adan. Hey woman, I advise you to walk away, this fight is not going to be one you want to be around. Those words were to Midnight, who was just beginning to pay attention, while everyone watched as they began to advance against each other with a smile. Lupu. First try what you do on my first attack. Izuku. That sounds good. The man only raised his spear as he went down with great speed, crashing into Izuku's hammer, stopping that attack only for the man to use greater force, causing him to step back, only for him to jump against Izuku, who, faced with such a thing, could only respond with a blow from his hammer against the man, in order to finish him off. Ending with a clash of weapons that with effort managed to make the man step back, who was only looking at him. Present Mick. Awesome, we couldn't even say when the fight should start and these two fighters have already started. I need a good opinion of this. Izawa. According to Izuku, he uses that hammer to end the fight immediately with a single blow. I think this shows that he really plans to use all his strength in this fight. Everyone watched as the young man tried to connect with a blow with his hammer against Lupu, who managed to stop the attacks with his spear, only for him to respond in the same way, having their clashes of weapons being equal before everyone's eyes, until the young man at one point stopped as he began to back away. Lupu. Now what do you plan to do? Izuku. I think it's pretty obvious, Lupu-hausen, I plan to finish you off like I did a while ago. They watched as he began to draw electricity from his body as he began to prepare to strike in order to end the fight. Mina. That stance really means ending everything once and for all. Sato. With that blow I finished off the Nomu of the League of Villains, he plans to kill that man. Izumi. I don't think so, Izuku is not someone who is using that power as if it were nothing, there is a reason he plans to use that power. He said this as they watched the young man prepare that attack to launch against Lupu, who only looked at him, while a lightning bolt fell from the sky, causing a cloud of dust to appear before everyone's eyes, which began to go away, only to hear something from that part. Lupu. You are really very good. But that once the smoke was gone, they saw how the man made a cut on Izuku's chest, causing him to back away from such a thing, while the man began to laugh as he looked at the young man for such a thing. Izuku. Interesting, you really proved to be the strongest human on earth, someone who has no rivals to fight with, without a doubt Lupu-hausen was what I expected. Lupu. Then we can't wait any longer, let's keep fighting until someone falls. Izuku. Sounds good to me. In that way they launched themselves against each other to clash their weapons, making a current of wind before the eyes of everyone who only noticed how the young man managed to keep up with a man who only proclaimed himself as the strongest, while at the same time he had a smile on his face, showing his fangs until at one point, Lupu moved forward in the fight. Moving forward to be able to cut Izuku again, who put one of his arms to protect himself, causing his glove to receive the damage which ended up being completely destroyed, surprising some for that while he released his hammer. Lupu. Now comes the fun part. Izuku. You're a bucking suicidal Lupu-hausen, you lost before for doing the same thing, and you do it again without thinking twice. Lupu. If I'm going to fight a worthy opponent using all my strength, that's the best for me. But that the young man had a smile while everyone watched as the hammer began to melt little by little, only for the young man to begin walking towards it while he slowly took off his other glove. Mjolnir. I will finally be able to use all your power as it was in the past. Izuku. I think so, old friend, we will be able to see again that power that we have been accumulating during this time, and not only that we will be able to use it against Lupu. Everyone watched as the hammer began to have veins, making them look at this in shock and partly with disgust for such a thing. Present Mick. What's up? Just look at that, now young Izuku's weapon has veins. But that, people were just waiting for the end of that fight. Jiru. What's happening now? It doesn't make sense. Heimi. But it's worse because weapons don't have veins even though they have a life of their own. Izumi. I think my brother told me about this once. At those words they saw the green-haired girl who was analyzing everything. Shota. What is it about? Lita. It's true, it doesn't make sense. Izumi. Izuku's gloves are special, he told us all that and he only used them with his hammer. At first we thought it was because they protected Izuku from the hammer, but in this time that I was with him, he told me that they don't protect him from the hammer, but that they protect the hammer from him. But that they saw the young man who took the hammer as he raised it with a smile. Izuku. Before I said these words against an opponent who was capable of healing his wound, so that didn't count, that's why right now Lupu I ask you a request, don't die now. But that the man had a smile as he began to move forward only to get in front of her. Lupu. Let's end this once and for all. I want to see your full potential. But that Izuku threw his hammer in one direction, causing it to go straight to the sky, where everyone looked at this with doubt as Lupu was preparing his attack to finish him off until they saw how he stretched out his hand, causing the hammer to return to him, only for him to take it followed by staring at it. Lupu. Devorator de cielo. Those words were accompanied as he began to throw his spear at Izuku, and Izuku began to put his hammer against him. Izuku. Grarif. But that the two attacks collided with each other, making an explosion even bigger than before the eyes of everyone, who were expecting an obvious result where only some things began to fly, being an impact even bigger than that of Izumi's fight against Shota, since at the end of that part they could only see smoke. Bajiro. Who won? Sato. I don't know. Kendo. Those two are really strong, but I don't think they came out well from that fight. Tesu. How strong was that impact? Ibara. Everyone look at the sky now. But that they did as they were shocked to notice that the clouds marked that the sky was divided in two, apart from the fact that it had a fairly large hole being a product of the two attacks, surprising everyone with such a thing. Present Mick. It looks like we'll be seeing the winner of this match soon. But that they watched as the smoke slowly went away, leaving almost nothing until they began to notice how Lubu was left with his arms destroyed, but he only needed time to recover, while Izuku had a bigger cut on his chest while he stared at him. The two rivals were standing before such an act and display of power. Lubu. I must thank you for fighting me until the end. Izuku. I must say the same, Lubu-hausen, thank you for this exciting fight. But that Lubu began to leave, and they only saw how Izuku fell to the floor because of such a thing. Midnight. The winner is Lubu-hausen. But that everyone could only watch in surprise at such an act between the two warriors. Shota. So this is Izuku's power, this is what I wanted to face from the beginning. Emma. I guess I'm done with this, we have to go see our parents. Shigeru. They probably have something to say. But those words they began to leave the class alone while they looked at their defeated classmate. Midnight. Bring the medics now. But that, some doctors arrived just to take the young man and then they began to run away on a stretcher with the boy. Tap 12. In the medical wing, Izuku was beginning to wake up and he could only sit up in bed as he began to remember how he ended up losing against that human who was the strongest in all of history, apart from giving him his first defeat before everyone. Izuku. Wow, his blows really hurt me quite a bit. I couldn't even imagine that such a strong person actually existed, although I should have expected it from that guy. Izumi. You finally wake up. For a moment I thought you were going to fall into a coma. Izuku. No, you need more than one of humanity's most powerful attacks to accomplish that. Momo. But what was all that about? You literally faced off against strangers at the last minute. Izuku. It doesn't matter anyway, sooner or later I had to face those people and to be honest, it makes me happy to have been able to face them that way. At one point I began to hear the door begin to open and Lubu entered the place with his gaze being a mix between bored and serious as he went directly to the young man. Lubu. I have to accept that you gave me a good fight until the end, I didn't even think that I would be able to last that long because of your young age. Izuku. You better start saving your stuff, I'm happy to at least be able to confront you a little, even though I managed to completely break your arm. At those words they saw how the man began to move his arms without problems, as if he were not hurt at all. Lubu. I think you need more than that to be able to accomplish such a thing as tearing my arm off. Izuku. How is that possible? And that he saw how a somewhat strange liquid passed him, being that it was an orange with yellow hue and being bright. Lubu. That is mana from the gods, you can heal your wounds without problems, and you better get stronger because we will face each other again, and in our next confrontation, I plan to give it my all, I suggest you do the same because you are not yet ready for this type of thing. But that the young man began to smile as he held that bottle in his hands, only to look at the same strongest man in the world who began to leave. Izuku. I guess I should thank you for this, Lubu-hausen. Lubu. No need to thank me, you must heal your wounds as soon as possible. Izuku. I'm not talking about that, I mean why you defeated me, thanks to that same defeat I was able to become stronger by learning from my mistakes, apart from that I always wanted to experience defeat with Mjolnir, something we didn't have the opportunity to have together. Mjolnir. Speak for yourself, you damn wretch, I'm some kind of magic hammer, not a damn nuclear bomb, I almost blew up into 1,000 pieces, you're as crazy as Thor, and I hope they rob me, so they end up making you pass for a woman, and that way they rescue me. Izuku. Boy, how angry. The young man watched as the human began to walk away from the place without even showing his smile that he had because the young man was thanking the same thing that he had thanked Thor for when he defeated him, a worthy defeat for the strongest. When he left, the girls looked at the green-haired man who noticed this and now had doubts about his future. Heimi. What was that all about? It doesn't make any sense. Izumi. It's true, you are grateful for the defeat they gave you, but none of this makes sense. Izuku. I guess I need to explain a lot of things to you about this. Izumi. Of course, you have to explain a lot of things if you want us to understand you now. Izuku. Well, exactly 12 years ago when they threw me down a waterfall, I didn't know how to swim, so I was drowning. I had no choice but to die, but a god, Thor, the berserker of thunder, the champion of the Norse, came to my rescue. He pulled me out of the water and took me to the shore where he made some fire so I could stay alive. Momo. So a deity saved you from death even though it sounds pretty crazy. Izuku. And right now I'm going to that part. Their reasons for saving me is because they supposedly saw something in me. They gave me their powers, abilities that they came to have, so that I can choose whether humanity should live or die. Apart from that, it explains a bit the details of why it is that literally those people want to fight me. A long time ago a Ragnarok tournament was held where gods fought against humans to find out the winner. Pay me. And what happened in that tournament? Izuku. Humanity won by luck. That's why the gods who fought in the tournament, Thor, Zeus, Poseidon, Hercules, Shiva and more, wanted to reincarnate in me to give humanity a chance and to make sure that they could have their power as the power of a deity should be. The humans who went to the tournament decided to come to fight me, and that way if I defeat them, I can claim my position as a deity. It is a law, my divine law. Izumi. So in a nutshell right now I'm the sister of a kind of deity. Izuku. Something like that, but for the moment I can't claim such a title unless I defeat those humans who faced the gods. Man. It's good that you talk like that because we just have to keep certain things with you. He said this as a man began to stand in front of him and he recognized him immediately. Izuku. What are you doing, Thor? You're not supposed to be alive anymore. Thor. Well, you know, there are certain things you can do and others you can't. Izuku. But I don't understand what's happening. Before he continued talking to the deity that he thought was dead as a car, some words came into his head so that he could begin to have a certain mental conversation with someone. Mjolnir. Don't be fooled, kid, it's really good, but don't let yourself fall. Izuku. What the hell are you talking about? Grimjo. I know it looks pretty real and all, but it's not the real thing. Izuku. Can you explain to me what's going on? Mjolnir. He is certainly good at this, too good, someone who is in charge of showing people that they are fools, someone so powerful in his deceptions that it is almost impossible to foresee his plans. Loki, Norse pantheon, god of deception. Thor. Well, my young student, I think it is time we talk about some very serious things since I am in this place. Pay me. So that's Thor the Thunder Berserker. I really wasn't expecting this. Momo. Although it looks more imposing than it seems. Izuku. Yes it is, but it could be more imposing if it were the real one. Come on Loki, you can fool me like the rest, but not Mjolnir or Grimjo, they gave you away. But that they saw how he had a smile and went back to his normal appearance where he had his original form. Loki. Sometimes I forget how annoying those talking god weapons are. Izuku. I guess you came for something important if I'm not mistaken. Loki. Exactly, we have something important to talk about right now. Izuku. Then please hurry up, I want to listen to you and not fall for your tricks. Loki. As we know, you just lost against Lupu, the strongest human, although your defeat was inevitable. If my brother, who is in a certain way, managed to have a good fight where he got serious and didn't even touch half of his power, it was quite obvious how that fight was going to end. Izuku. So that's why you wanted to come, to show me that things really work that way, but I don't understand why now. Loki. Well, I came to, you know, offer you my training as well as my power. Besides, many gods have wanted my head for a long time, since one of my pranks accidentally caused some things. Izuku. What I was missing was having the deity of deception inside me like the rest, although if the rest of the gods want you dead I can't imagine why. Loki. Exactly, you better take that mana from the gods, and let's go because we still have to do some important things. Izumi. Wait, he can't go, not now that we can finally talk and spend time with him. Loki. Luckily, we'll go to his house where they'll be able to see him, that way they'll have fewer problems. Amy. It doesn't sound so bad now that you say it. Momo. Maybe not, but I have my doubts about this. He said this as they watched a young man begin to get up while drinking that liquid so that his wounds would heal completely and begin to walk so he could stand in front of Loki who had a smile. Loki. Well then we can begin. Izuku. Let's just go, I don't like wasting time with you. Loki. It seems that since you were able to meet Poseidon, you ended up this way, although it is normal, since he tried to kill you many times, since humans were not his favorites to be honest. The two began to walk while they began to be followed by the girls, and it took them a few hours until they arrived at the young man's house, since some parts of his body still hurt. After all, Lupu was not called the strongest man in the world for nothing and more for his most powerful attack. Amy. What do you think he's going to try? Momo. I don't know, if it's someone who deceives people I don't think it's a good thing if we think about it carefully enough. The two of divine power looked at each other until they only saw how Loki began to give a great sigh. Loki. I want you to take out your sword, that's important. Izuku. Well, I don't understand your training method now, though. When he took out his sword he saw how Loki himself began to take out from the palm of his hands, through some black holes, some golden chains that at the end of them had some crescent-shaped blades. Loki. I want to have a little fight with you, nothing more than that. Saying that he threw his weapons at the young man who managed to dodge them with relative ease, so he launched himself at him in order to cut him, ending up blocking them until he saw how a third chain began to come out of them, causing the young man to dodge it, followed by dodging more chains that began to come out of nowhere. Surprising everyone for that very reason until they noticed how two chains managed to catch the young man, wrapping themselves around his body so that he fell to the floor trapped. Izuku. What the hell happened? Loki. It's simple, you let yourself fall for the deception. My ability that I have among others is to change the shapes of objects, take the appearance of other people, summon these weapons as at the same time I am able to create pretty good illusions as you could see right now, that's why I managed to catch you. Izuku. I see, then a deadly ability even if it doesn't really do anything to you, but in the eyes of the human eye, you are truly capable of trapping people and even deceiving them. Loki. Exactly, now that we've finished with this kind of things we can continue with the rest of all this your training. Izuku. You're talking about combat. Loki. If this type of combat knows what is real and what is not real, you will change the shapes of objects apart from changing shape and summoning my weapons among other things that you will be able to do. Izuku. I see, you really want me to be able to generate this kind of things, that I can even do the same thing you do. Loki. Exactly. But that he released the young man while the girls began to approach the young man little by little, who did nothing more than receive help from the girls to be able to get up. Momo. Then you're really going to have to try harder, even though gods really do exist. Amy. I guess it's good to have one as an ally. Izumi. Or as a brother. He said this while the young man just looked at Loki thinking about his training. Chapter 13. Time passed since the young man managed to learn a lot about the things of Loki himself, where he simply managed to maintain a fairly large power, despite everything keeping in mind that now he was truly going to be able to maintain longer fights against the mortals he once faced. Currently he was within the UA without having anything else to do at the moment, since he was truly calm. Hiroshima. Hey Izu bro, there are some things that left me with quite a few doubts. Izuku. What do you mean by that? Hiroshima. Well, when you faced that man, you acted strangely with that smile, you even scared me at times. Izuku. Well, it's just that Lu Bu is one of the few people who can truly give me a fight, and having him in front of me fighting, enduring every attack I threw at him was truly out of this world. It was something I had never felt the same way before, in fact I was even completely happy to have a person who can truly fight on par with me. Hiroshima. So that's what happened. Haminari. Anyway, I think they went a bit too far when the two of them fought, almost sending us flying without us being able to do anything about it. Izuku. I accept that it really happened to me in those moments, but well, these things happen. Momo. Even though you risked too much by taking each of those attacks head-on without doing anything about it, you really worried us more than once. Izuku. Well, I'm still alive actually, so there's no need for you to worry about this kind of things to be honest. Momo. Anyway, you went too far when you let yourself get hurt like that. Izuku. Well, good fights last as long as they have to last at least. We just have to have the possibility of being able to keep things under control for the moment, nothing more than that. Momo. Well, in the end we can just take advantage of things to be able to hold on a little better, just don't try to put yourself in as much risk as the other times. Izuku. I just hope for something interesting at the end of all this at least once, even if it's that. He said this while he was calm until he saw the teacher begin to enter who looked at all his students, knowing that something important was going to have to happen now. Izawa. I would like to inform all of you that from this point on we will have to start with some internships. The sports festival was just a way for the professional heroes to be able to see all of you and to open the doors for you to start with some parts of professional heroes. At least that way you will have the possibility of taking into account what the world of professionals is really like. Izumi. If they really plan to do that kind of thing, we'll have plenty of opportunities this way. Uraka. Yeah, I can't wait to get started. Izawa. Let's start by distributing the proposals that each of you received. He said this as he began to show them the amount each one had to work with the heroes, and Izuku undoubtedly had a very large number in the eyes of the young man who cited such a thing. Izuku. Why do I have to have this kind of number, it's so annoying. Sato. I think it's normal, after having fought with that man at the sports festival, you certainly made it clear to everyone how strong you were. Izumi. Even I was surprised to see your full strength in combat, it was something I never imagined you were capable of doing. Izuku. Now what they say is true, I have to be able to think of a way to do things better than now. Izumi. So who are you going to choose? And that they saw how he ended up choosing before everyone's eyes. Izuku. Since there are too many, it's best to be able to do it randomly. I have no idea what it will end up as, but I guess it's going to be something good. Momo. This must be a joke. Mina. Having so many options and you just jump at it like it's nothing. Aoyama. Although it is certainly a reasonable decision, having so many people to choose from, he had no choice but to leave it to chance. Izuku. Exactly, now that you have an idea of what's going to happen, all that's left is for you to choose. He said this as he began to leave for a part of the class, allowing the rest to continue in the same way, so that at the end of the matter, everyone ended up returning home, while Izuku was walking and managed to hear something. Bakugo. Wait a minute, I have to talk to you. Izuku. What's wrong now? I'm busy if you don't mind. Bakugo. I just came so I could say one thing I hope you can understand well and not end up making fun of. Izuku. Say it once and for all, I have no intention of taking any longer to be honest. And that he saw how Bakugo came to kneel before him. Bakugo. I'm really sorry, I'm sorry for everything I did against you before, making fun of you because you didn't have a gift, doing things against you, these are things I really don't want to repeat again in my life. Izuku. You speak sincerely, but that sincerity is not because you want to have me on your side as a friend, partner or ally, that does not matter to you, what truly matters to you is being with my sister if I am not mistaken. Bakugo. How do you know? Izuku. Even Shin Wang is able to see it even with his bandages on his face from miles away. The important thing is that by seeing you is simply knowing that you are going to end up trying to destroy whoever gets in your way to be the number one hero, but when it comes to terms of love, you are capable of doing anything, even humiliating yourself to have my sister's forgiveness and be with her. It is something that I see very clearly. Bakugo. Then I want to know what you're going to do, because if you really know why I came, then it means it's not going to be something like giving me your forgiveness so I can get closer to Izumi, I have no doubt about that. Izuku. Of course you have no doubts, but you are wrong at the same time, I can give you the opportunity to be with my sister without problems, I can give you that opportunity, so that you are able to get closer to her. Bakugo. Thank you very much for. Before he finished speaking, from one second to the next, a cut appeared on his cheek from Izuku's trident that he threw with his hand so that it would return to him. Izuku. I want to make something clear before everything, I can give you the opportunity, but it will only be for this matter, because if something happens along the way, don't think that the least of your worries is Izumi, but I will be the one who will make your life impossible. You already saw how I left at Nomu, just because he wanted to go after my sister, and with you it will be much worse. But that he began to walk away before Bakugo's eyes, who took into account that it was going to be somewhat complicated to handle the matter from then on, especially having a kind of deity in front of him. Time passed and it was time for each student to go to the internships where Izuku was only walking through a part of a building where it was completely abandoned. Izuku. What the hell is going on now? I'm supposed to be able to find the pro around here. The young man walked slowly until in a second he had to dodge a kick from a person retreating, followed by blocking a second kick that, due to the force of the kick, managed to make him retreat, causing his back to crash against a wall. Izuku. What great strength, I certainly know only one person capable of generating this type of damage with just their legs, right Maruko? Maruko. Not bad, dodging my first attack and enduring the second, you seem to be a person with great abilities as a possible potential in the future, you will be very useful if I am not mistaken. Izuku. So I broke up with you, I had to assume I wasn't going to choose wrong. Maruko. Don't tell me you chose randomly so you could finish me off like this. Izuku. The truth is yes, I ended up that way. Maruko. I think I have a lot of work with you boy, but let's start with other details such as knowing about the touch of your abilities like others, I understand that you can call your quirk as deity if I am not mistaken. Izuku. Exactly, that way I have my quirk at least. Maruko. Interesting, I think being able to test your quirk a little on the streets could be a good idea, I just have to be clear about how good you can be as a utility, if I don't have some of that then we're going to have problems between the two of us. Izuku. If you put it that way then it's best to get going now with the matter of patrolling or whatever. Maruko. I just hope you don't end up being a bother at the end of the day altogether. She said this as they began to walk a little until in a second another attempt was made to kick the young man through his body so that he would end up disappearing, surprising her with such a thing. Maruko. What the hell was that? Izuku. I had an idea that you were going to try to attack me, so it was best to make the decision to be able to get away a little and have an illusion of myself in case you tried, it's something I had in mind. Maruko. And you're not doing too bad, brat, you're smarter than you might seem at first glance. Izuku. Then I hope we can get down to business instead of fighting in a way that ends up feeling like a complete waste of time. Boruko. Yes, but for now I hope you are as good at catching villains as breaking their bones. The young man nodded as he began to walk away with the rabbit woman, since that way they would be able to begin the matter that was supposedly going to be very important to all of them. Chap 14. The young man was with the heroine for a while, being able to take his skills to a high level without the need to stop in any way, so that in some of those moments, he was with Maruko jumping through some buildings until they stopped at one. Izuku. What the hell are we doing in this place? Maruko. In these parts there is a heroine who is always doing modeling things and stuff like that, we just try to keep an eye out for any kind of villain to appear, since it is normal for them to do so around here. Izuku. If you put it that way then it won't be a problem to find them soon. Boruko. Exactly, they're usually just villains trying to kidnap her, so they're usually not that big of a deal. The young man just started walking around the place, thinking he could find some kind of villain, until he started hearing some familiar voices and approached and listened to a conversation. Pay me? Can you believe that they really want to give us this payment for such a thing? Momo. I really can't believe it, I was even surprised. Pay me? In the end we just have to trick Izuku, make him believe that we are in love with him, and in the end with it we will be able to get his parents to come closer so that he forgives them, and with that we will achieve that in the end of everything they end up having Izumi's love again. Momo. We just have to do this kind of thing for a while, then we can get a good pay, and we'll have everything we want. The girls began to have some light laughs at that, while Izuku just listened to everything without saying anything about it, so that in the end he ended up opening the door little by little, and with his voice, he managed to make them look directly at the door. Izuku. There's no need to continue with this deception, I can perfectly see your intentions right now. He began to walk, disappearing from the place before the eyes of the girls, who were only in shock at first as they remembered one thing. Flashback. The girls were about to be able to leave with the heroine who was going to be in charge of having them for a while, until they saw how All Might managed to appear in the middle of the place. Pay me? It's All Might. What does he need right now? All Might. It's simple, as you know I am Izumi's father, and therefore Izuku's too. I have a problem with my son about some things, you don't have to worry, I promise to give you a very good pay at the end of all the money you want. Momo. I'm afraid we don't understand anything. All Might. It's simple, I already said it, you have to approach him, generate trust, and that he can come back with us, that's all. Momo. I'm afraid we can't take advantage of that in any way, we don't plan to. Pay me? There's no way we can take this deal. The girls just wanted to continue on, passing by the blonde, who was surprised to see how they did not accept such a thing that the man managed to propose. End of flashback. With that, the girls went out to try to find the young man, but they did not see him anywhere. Pay me? Where did he go? Momo. I don't know, we have to find him as soon as possible. The girls began to walk while outside the building some villains were thinking about carrying out a robbery, smiling at the thought that everything was going to turn out well. Villain 1. This is going to be perfect, I can't believe it's going to be so easy to commit this robbery. Villain 2. That's right, we can do it. The villains were ready to start, but they began to hear footsteps and saw Izuku walking with his gaze down, as if it were nothing. Villain 3. What do you think you're doing here? Izuku. You guys are villains, aren't you? It's a shame I have to finish you off right now. Villain 3. Please, let's finish you off. The villains were planning to go against him, but the young man managed to appear behind them with his trident in hand, causing hundreds of cuts to appear in that place, so that the villains fell to the ground without further ado, while he was only able to start to leave the place, walking to reach the top of a building where he stayed thinking a bit about the matter. Izuku. So All Might is always looking to cheat, that miserable man always plans to finish me off in some way, and always plans the worst for my life. I have my doubts if my sister plans to do the same, or at least if they plan to take advantage of my power. I have too many doubts, and all this is only getting worse, it is getting worse. The young man looked at his hands, thinking about the whole truth. Was everything he did good or not? Was he really on the right path? This was one of his doubts, making him feel helpless until he began to hear a voice in the background. Man. You must not doubt, you must not feel helpless, doubts must leave your mind to make decisions, and helplessness will disappear once you manage to break that wall that was put in front of you. As soon as I heard that I stood up to be on guard against such a thing. Izuku? Who said that? I want you to come forward, you damn coward. Man. You shouldn't be on your guard, you'll never convey trust or respect this way. Izuku? I don't understand it, it doesn't even make any sense. Man. Make better decisions, because if you raise a weapon against that which is above everything, then you must be careful, especially if it is your majesty. The hand managed to rest on his shoulder, causing Izuku to end up opening his eyes quite wide, being completely surprised by such a thing, not believing that such a thing was actually in front of him. Izuku. You are Hades, the eldest brother of the gods, the deity that everyone truly trusts and has the utmost respect for, even being respected by Poseidon. Hades. Exactly, now that you know who I really am, you're going to keep in mind that you're standing before me for really good reasons. Izuku. I think you're coming for me like the rest. I understand from Zeus that you ended up being another deity that ended up losing in Ragnarok, right? Hades. Exactly, when you managed to know more about the matter we can begin your training. Izuku. How is this possible? I think it really doesn't make sense, this kind of thing, that you find yourself in front of me just when I barely managed to have Loki's abilities and I still have to improve them. Hades. I have my decisions, including some parts where I can't give you my power or abilities yet. Izuku. What do you mean by that? Your words really don't make any sense. Hades. These are the words of a king of the underworld, but more importantly, clear your mind if your sister is really using you, if people are really using you, if you can tell the truth or be sure that you made the right choice to live with mortals, to use this divine scale justice and take into account if everything is okay. When he said that, he was only able to think while Hades slowly got on his knees before him to take him by the shoulders. Hades. Now that you know perfectly well, you must take into account everything I told you and clear your mind. Once you have an answer in your mind, you will be able to know perfectly well whether I am going to give you my power or not. At that, he proceeded to hit Izuku's stomach, causing him to fall to the floor, slowly falling unconscious, while Hades himself slowly left the place without saying anything. He remained silent, unable to say anything about it, only remaining unconscious until after a few hours he began to wake up, seeing part of the sky where he could not understand anything of what was happening. Izuku. What the hell is going on? Girl. Hey, are you okay? I found you unconscious and I couldn't leave you alone, especially when I managed to recognize you after the sports festival. I noticed that person being able to get up while holding his stomach when he felt that blow that Hades gave him and looked around. Izuku. Who are you? Girl. I'm a third-year UA student, Najire Hado, nice to meet you. Izuku. So you're someone from the UA, it's a pleasure, but I think I should have woken up in a hospital at least. Najire. If about that, let's say that you were a little heavy to be able to get up. Izuku. But Maruko was nearby, you could ask her for help to get me up. Najire. There were problems with that too. Maruko. For some reason your trident is too heavy and I don't think it's a good idea to get away from it like that. Anyway, at the end of all that doesn't matter since you're awake and that's what's important. It seems that everything is fine, so I'll go back to keep watch a bit. The woman began to leave the place as if it were nothing while Izuku walked so he could take the trident and make it return to its Grimjo form, just so he could put it on his waist, as if it were nothing. Najire. How do you do that? You're literally able to do that kind of stuff as if it were a quirk. Izuku. Well, these weapons are part of my power for the most part, but the important thing in all this is that I am grateful that you took care of me a little, and if you let me I have to go. Najire. Let me accompany you a little, the heroine I met is within the same agency as Maruko, although I would also like to know the subject who attacked you. I saw when they knocked you unconscious, and I was too surprised. Izuku. So it's like that, it's just an acquaintance giving me some advice before hitting me, it's normal for him. Najire. I think it's one thing an acquaintance shouldn't do to others really. Izuku. Anyway, let's just get these details out of the way once and for all. He began to walk while Najire slowly accompanied him at his side. Najire. It's a nice night, isn't it? Izuku. Yes, I do. Najire. It also seems that there won't be any more villains for the moment. Izuku. True, at least it's somewhat calm. Najire. By the way, what is your power like? Izuku. We better keep things quiet, I'd like to go back quietly without the need to speak. Najire. Okay, well otherwise it'll be another matter. The two of them kept walking slowly until the girl started looking at the young man too much. Najire. And do you want to eat something? At that I just lowered my head knowing that I couldn't do anything with this girl. Izuku. It's okay, I'm a little hungry. But that they went somewhere to get something to eat, since for the young man it didn't matter that the girl was talking to him about anything at that moment. Chapter 15, Tests. Once the tests were done, the young man was in the academy with the whole class, where they talked about their experiences with the professional heroes. At least they were calm until they were called by Aizawa himself, making them go to the areas where the tests were. Hiroshima. What are we doing here? Haminari, I have a better question. Why are all the teachers and the principal here? He said this after pointing towards the same ones who were smiling, making some students very scared. Mina. Don't you have a feeling that something very bad is about to happen? Aizawa. And you're right. Nezu. From this point we will have the test of heroes against students. When they were told that, everyone froze, knowing that they were going to fight against their teachers. Haminari, this has to be a joke. Nezu. No, and to make it as fair as possible we decided that each of you would form teams of 2 and fight against the rest of the teachers. Vanetta. Since we're going to have a really bad time. 0. It goes without saying if we are already feeling it. He said this as they began to explain the test and form the teams, where everyone noticed something in particular. Momo. Excuse me, but Izuku looks like he's fighting a question mark alone. Nezu. For young Izuku we have a special test. Izuku. And I'll have a really bad time, right? Nezu. Possibly. Izuku. Wow, what bad luck. The students began to leave where Izuku being the last felt a tap on his shoulder to see All Might. All Might if you want, son, I can take care of making the fight as fair as possible. Izuku. I don't need your help. He then removed his hand from above him as he tried to continue on his way. Izuku. If I ever find you or fight you then you should know that I don't plan on showing mercy, in the end in these fights, anything can happen even breaking some bones. He said this as he was only able to continue on his way leaving All Might alone. The tests began to pass only for Izuku to slowly become the finalist who began to prepare until he noticed Momo entering the same place as him. Izuku. Is something wrong? Momo. No, I just have a bad feeling and I wanted to wish you luck. Izuku. It won't be necessary, I have everything I need at hand. Momo. Anyway, you can't be too confident. Izuku. I'm not going to do it. Momo. You say that when you're the first person to be overconfident. Izuku. No, because I already know who I'm going to fight. He said this while maintaining a smile towards the brunette who came to blush. The doors of the city sector were slowly opening only for an Izuku to enter wearing Thor's uniforms, where he even held Mjolnir in his hand resting on his shoulder, having a great similarity to the deity at the same time that it gave a deep feeling of fear to all who saw him along with respect. Hiroshima. Why does Izuku have those clothes? Amanari. It's probably because he really wants to scare everyone. Izumi. Be careful little brother. The girl watched the young man who walked with his eyes closed until he opened them where he only expressed boredom. Izuku. Until you arrive. In front of him, a cloud of dust appeared, from which All Might himself emerged with his smile in front of the young man. All Might. It's a pleasure to see you young Izuku. Izuku. For you I don't have that name, you can call me Olympus. All Might. Olympus. What kind of name is that? Izuku. That name that will give you your judgment, I intend to apply my divine law to you. All Might. I don't think that's really possible. He said this as he noticed a pink smoke at the young man's feet, but he lifted his hammer to rest it on the floor, dispersing all the smoke, surprising the students because he realized it while Midnight was present. Midnight. How could he notice? Izuku. Right now I have Mjolnir in my hand. When I use it is because I plan to get serious in a fight and at the same time it is because I am aware of the threat that surrounds me. He threw Mjolnir breaking a building at the same time that when it returned to his hands, it managed to break another building causing him to catch it while Nezu and Sniper were in each one. Izuku. Everyone is in this place and I plan to finish them all. Cement. I don't think that can happen. All Might. We will show you how strong we can be. He launched himself towards Izuku, but the young man managed to dodge All Might's attack in one turn, who managed to block it. All Might. Did you think you could do it like this? He fell when he felt his body being pushed until Izuku finished spinning, sending All Might to break several buildings, surprising all the students with what they had just seen at that moment. Izuku. Don't be too confident because I plan to crush you. Cement. And I will bury you. From his seat he began to throw all the cement that surrounded him, where the young man with a movement of his hammer managed to completely destroy it, and the force of the impact clouded the hero's vision who, being able to see in front of him, noticed Izuku with Mjolnir in hand, ready to finish him off, but ectoplasm pushed cement away, saving him from the attack. When the young man hit him, he noticed that it was actually a clone of himself that was destroyed. Izuku. Are you planning to take me by surprise? Ectoplasm then attacked him with a kick that the young man avoided in order to grab him by the neck, lifting him into the air before slamming him against the ground, causing him to be destroyed, and with that more clones to appear in the area. Izuku. Clones won't work for me. From a distance Sniper shot at the young man, but before the bullets hit him Mjolnir moved to protect his hand, surprising the man with such a thing. Sniper. Did he detect me? Nezu. No, in fact he didn't move a muscle. It was as if the hammer itself protected young Izuku. He was surprised by that while Izuku with a movement of his hammer managed to destroy several copies of ectoplasm without problem thinking about continuing until he noticed that it moved away only so he could create a giant version of it. Tokoyami. He's lost, he won't be able to fight him. Sai. He almost beat us like that. The young man only slowly raised his hammer with a slight smile. Izuku. This reminds you of when you were in Asgard, right? He spoke to his hammer before using a blow of the same to destroy ectoplasm's body, surprising the vast majority with that enormous force. Izuku. Let's finish you off. Before being able to go for him, Aizawa's ribbons went to take him, while Present Mick stood in front of the young man where he began to shout against him, causing him to receive the full attack. Ectoplasm Aizawa, you must use your quirk. Aizawa. I can't. Ectoplasm, what are you talking about? Aizawa. His quirk is very similar to All Might's, no matter how much he achieves he would still have that enormous strength, and remember that he has more gifts. He said this as he watched Izuku slowly advance towards Present Mick before grabbing him by the face to lift him up. Izuku. You make too much noise, it bothers me. I managed to slam him against the floor, silencing him as he fell unconscious. Izuku. One less, but if I want to destroy them then I must finish off the mind. He said this as he began to walk towards another point. Nezu. Where is All Might? Sniper, he'll be here soon, the damage he received from that hammer sent him too far away. Nezu, we must stall him until. Izuku. To what extent? Sniper, I'm coming. He wanted to shoot, but he noticed that the hammer moved on its own, going towards the hero, who couldn't believe it when he realized it. Sniper. Does it have a life of its own? Izuku. Of course. What were you thinking? Sniper. Which was a simple hammer. Saying that, the young man seemed upset by such a thing. Izuku, you hurt his feelings and now he wants revenge. He said this as the hammer launched itself towards the hero who could only scream. Izuku. Fine, to finish you I only need one fist. Nezu, I don't doubt it, but I also came prepared in case this happens. Saying that, Izuku's arm was grabbed by Midnight, who had a smile as she used her whip. Midnight. Sorry, but you can't hurt your elders. Izuku. Are you saying that because of his age? Midnight. Are you calling me an old lady, you damn cheeky brat? Izuku. There are no cameras in this place, right? Nezu. No student sees us. Why do you say that? The young man took part of the whip so that with its force he could attack the heroine, causing her to remain in front of the young man, who took her by the waist before getting her too close to him. Izuku. Although seeing better now, your beauty is different from that of any other woman. That made the heroine blush, but the moment was interrupted by a certain person. Nezu, he's a student, remember that you can't have anything to do with him. Izuku. Damn rat, the trick Zeus taught me was working. He thought about that before jumping to the floor where he was surrounded by the rest of the heroes, and little by little, he saw All Might arriving at the place. Aizawa. You have nowhere to go, I should advise you to give up. Cement, we consider that you give up. Ectoplasm, it will be impossible for you to finish the test. Izuku. Are you sure about that? He said this as he extended his arm, causing Mjolnir to go towards the young man who smiled. Izuku. It's not for nothing that I chose to use Mjolnir, and it was because we have too limited time. He then threw it towards All Might, who managed to dodge it with great difficulty and smiled. Sniper, you failed. Izuku. You think so? He then extended his arm, making All Might realize what was happening. All Might, this is very bad, I must stop it. He increased his speed while Aizawa had a memory of the USJ. Aizawa. We all must stop him right now before his hammer gets back in his hands. Hearing him, they began to pay attention to him at the same time that Mjolnir returned to Izuku's hand, who had a smile as he made that movement. Mina. That. Hero. It's the same attack. Hiroshima. With which I finish off the Nomu that was made to destroy All Might. The young man only showed a smile as he finished turning, having All Might as the closest to him. Izuku. See Akabo Gerard. At that, the hammer hit the floor, generating an earthquake everywhere, destroying the cameras at the same time as Cement's attack, Sniper's bullets, Aizawa with his bandages, Ectoplasm with his clones, and more only managed to fly out of the place before the buildings that began to fall without any mercy, and the exit door fell to pieces. From the smoke came Izuku waving his hammer, where he saw that in front of him was the injured body of All Might, being the one who suffered the most of the attack, where the young man only spat on him for such a thing. Izuku. And this was supposed to be the number one big hero. He just continued on his way to the door, where All Might saw him blurry, reaching out his arm wanting to reach him. All Might. Hi Joe. He said this as he couldn't reach him, while Izuku noticed something in particular as he walked. Izuku. The attack didn't affect him at all, he's just pretending, well I must fulfill Zeus's will. He said this when he remembered that Zeus told him to have too many women and children. Seeing that Midnight was pretending to be unconscious on top of the rubble, he proceeded to slap her, drawing a smile on the heroine's face, while Izuku just continued on his way to be able to pass that test. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown in left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.